Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today is the November 27th, Tuesday, Rialto City Council meeting, calling to order at 6:06 p.m. Madam City Clerk, roll call, please. Mayor Robertson. Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Scott.
Present.
Councilmember Baca Jr.
Here.
Councilmember Trujillo.
Present.
Councilmember Carrizales.
Here.
City Treasurer Ed Carrillo.
Present.
City Attorney Fred Galante.
Present.
City Administrator Ahmad Ansari.
Present.
Thank you. Now, if we could ask everyone to please stand and join Mayor Pro Tem Ed Scott as he leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then please remain standing for invocation.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and I believe we have Pastor Rick Whitted. Did I say right this time? Whitted.
You're going to get it right.
I'm going to get there.
Let's pray and ask God's blessing upon tonight's proceedings. Father, we just thank you once again for tonight. I thank you for this council as they gather together to consider the business of Rialto. I pray that you would give them wisdom as they consider the things that need to be done for the benefit of the people of Rialto. And I pray for those who are here tonight to be heard, Lord. I pray that you would give them boldness to come forward, give them wisdom to speak, and give them clarity so that they can be understood. We thank you again for what you're planning to do here tonight and ask your blessing upon these proceedings. It's in Jesus' name. Amen.
All right. Please be seated. Okay, and if City Attorney, if you would be so kind as to report out on closed session.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council and audience. The City Council met in closed session, initially with Mayor Robertson absent on the following items: public employee appointment, title of Finance Director, and also interim Community Compliance Manager. The mayor began participation in closed session at 5:28 p.m. on the following item: public employee appointment, title interim police chief. Next item on the first two positions, City Council provide direction, no reportable action. On item number 2, public employment, interim police chief, City Council received an update. No further reportable action was taken. Item number 3, conference with labor negotiator concerning the employee organizations previously announced before recessing into closed session. City Council received an update and provided direction. No further reportable action was taken. Finally, item number 4, conference with real property negotiator concerning the property at the southwest corner of Casmelia Street and Alder Avenue, with the negotiating parties being Terry Thompson, County of San Bernardino, and SM Kalile RVA Spa. City Council received an update to those negotiations, provided direction. No further reportable action was taken. The City Council adjourned out of closed session at 6:01 p.m. And that concludes the report out of closed session, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. Now we'll move to presentations and proclamations, and this evening we have 2. One will start with Councilmember Rafael Trujillo, and it's the Rialto Youth Soccer League. And I see he will be joined by Councilmember Andy Carrizales. And then after that, concluding, we will have Councilmember Joe Baca Jr. He will do proclamation on National Family Caregivers Month.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. We're here to recognize some of our champions in the Rialto Youth Soccer League. As you know, this past weekend we've had a number of accomplishments in our city, which is great. We can't wait to see a lot more of that. But we also wanted to recognize some of our younger athletes who have gone on, represented our city, have traveled, and have actually won and brought us home some championships. So I wanted to thank Maggie Beltran for one of the active parents for bringing this to our attention. And I wanted to call up Edgar Camacho to come up and introduce his team and some of his accomplishments. So if you'd like to talk about some of your accomplishments and
All right. I'm Coach Edgar, by the way. I got Coach Robert with me, my assistant for Team Iceland. We play in the under 14 division at Rialto East Soccer League. Some of our accomplishments this year are we placed first in our division with 13 wins, 0 losses, and 2 ties. We scored 100 goals this season, which is amazing. We also just came back from Lancaster. We represented Rialto in the Commissioner's Cup. We were invited to play up there, and we also took first place. We won the Commissioner's Cup up there. Yeah, and another accomplishment is this past weekend, we competed in the Rialto Thanksgiving Classic tournament at our league, and we placed second place in that tournament. And we also have over in Temecula another Commissioner's Cup that we're going to compete against the other first place teams in our district, and we will be representing Rialto there. So we're looking forward to that, representing the city of Rialto. Okay.
Thank you. So as we bring up the students, first we want to kind of say a few words. We just want to say that we're very proud of your accomplishments and for representing our city out where you play, and just wanted to thank you for putting your all into the game and for really showing a lot of pride in our city and by playing for our community and showing that you have a lot of talent, and thank you for serving as kind of our ambassadors in the athletic side of things, and just congratulations again.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I just want to thank all the kids for all their efforts and for all the energy that you guys put out in the field. But I also want you guys to give your parents a round of applause for all the commitment that they have showed. And without further ado, we'll start with...
If you can name them off, and as they come up, you can say a little bit.
Sure.
One thing about each of them.
All right.
So we've got
stands them out.
Edgar Aguilar.
Eduardo, actually, I don't think he made it today.
Okay.
We have Ozzy Andrade. This is one of our players. He plays midfield for us. He does a great job for us. He's always, shows up
Ozzy,
to
come right
practice.
up,
Does a
Ozzy.
great job.
All right. Stand.
Next player we have is Christopher Arriaga. Yes, he's a good player.
Crutches
He got
still
injured.
made it over here.
Yeah, he got injured in the tournament this weekend, actually.
All right.
But he's still here. He still made it.
Stand up there. Here, go ahead.
Next young man we have here is
Ethan Camacho.
my son, Ethan Camacho.
Ethan Camacho. Congratulations.
Next we have is Nicholas Cosillo.
There we go.
Next we got Fernando Garcia.
We'll get you one.
It was stuck.
There it is.
Congratulations, Fernando.
Good job, Fernando. Next one we have is Vincent Marquez. Okay.
Congratulations, Vincent. What do you play?
Left mid.
All right. Good job.
Next we have Isaac Ocampo. One of our strikers for the team. Next we have is our midfielder, Daniel Solis. Another midfielder is Manuel Torres. One of our defenders would be Steven Cepeda.
Congratulations.
Next we have William Huerta, a defender.
William Huerta. Here you go, Mr. Huerta.
And last we have midfielder Leonardo Orquilla. The other ones didn't make it tonight.
Okay, yeah, no. Leonardo Cuya.
Okay.
And we also have Robert Marquez. Congratulations. And Edgar Camacho.
Thank you.
There you go. Go ahead and
Thank
join
you.
us. Congratulations on
Thank
all
you,
the hard
thank
work. And we'll just, yeah.
Thank you very much.
I had a question, Messi or Ronaldo, who's better?
Coach said so. All right.
Thank you.
There's actually one more team that we're going to have next city council meeting. It's another team at the Rialto Youth Soccer League who are also undefeated, and they'll be coming back at the next council meeting. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. We'll have quite a few. We'll have the two high schools that are here for championship, and then another.
They're going to fit next week.
Take it outside. Okay, next, Councilmember Joe Baca Jr. is going to acknowledge National Family Caregivers Month. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members, staff, and the community. Thank you for being here. Tonight we're going to presenting myself and the colleagues, the entire City Council, as a proclamation tonight in regards to in-home support services. For those of you that don't know what in-home support services are, basically what they do is they provide services to those that are disabled, seniors, those that are in need, those that cannot take care of themselves. And it's a really important thing because at some point in time, all of us are going to age. There's many of us that are going to get older. We can't take care of ourselves. We can't change ourselves. We can't care for ourselves. And there's some that are born with disabilities. And I think it's important that we recognize this group because they do a lot of things. I mean, it really is God's work. It really is a lot of patience for what they do. And the group that's here tonight is, I know that years ago, the history is, I know at one time with the County of San Bernardino, they were SEIU 434B. Tonight, they're SEIU 2015. And to the west of us, there's the United Domestic Workers, which provide in-home support services. So they're basically in-home. They get paid through the county. And one of the things that they did the other day is they participated in an event at St. Bernardine's Church. And I was there along with Assemblymember Reyes and Senator Connie Leyva. And it was a rally. It was a rally to cry because one of the things they're fighting for is for a raise, to get dignity and make sure that healthcare workers have dignity. And that's really, really important that they have dignity because, you know, they do a lot of things that people don't want to do. And I value what they do, and we all value because, you know, we all have grandparents, we all have family members, someone in our family that's disabled. And I think it's important that we recognize this month, especially as a city council, because we've done it before years ago, but we're bringing it back today. So I'd like to ask members of SEIU 2015 to go ahead and come forward. Let's give it up for these members of 2015, everything they do for our community. Bring them forward. And for those you don't know, there's approximately 1,600 home care workers here in the city of Rialto. So we do have quite a bit of them. I have my good friend Patrice that's here. And I'll tell you one thing about Patrice. She does a lot for the community. She donates shoes to the homeless. She gives a lot of her personal time. I know we have one of their organizers, Juan Carlos Garcia, that's here. But I have this proclamation. I'm not going to read the entire thing. I'll read some of it. But the whereas almost 26,000 in-home support services workers for the County of San Bernardino deliver quality care for more than 31,000 of our most vulnerable residents, including low-income seniors, adults, children with disabilities. Whereas the number of families and non-family members requiring in-home care will increase in San Bernardino County as our population of those 60 years and older doubles to 550,000 by the year 2030. So as people become older, this population will continue to grow. So I'll go ahead and read the closing and allow some members or a member or two from the SCIU 2015 to say a few words. Now therefore, the Mayor, Deborah Robertson, along with the City of Rialto, hereby proclaim the City of Rialto stands united with home care workers and acknowledges the essential work and contributions they bring to Rialto by officially recognizing this month, November 2018, as Family Caregivers Month, and support their efforts to bring dignity to work and lift themselves and our communities out of poverty as they fight for a livable wage and health care benefits here in San Bernardino County. Let's give them a round of applause. I don't know if we want Juan Carlos, you want to come on up or allow some of your members? Okay. Okay, go ahead. It's all yours.
Okay. I just want to say thank you, and also, this is my idol. He helps me when I need help. I give out food as well, and he helps me when I need help. So he's awesome. And I'd like to bring up some of my ladies if you want to speak. We have Madeline Velasquez, Raina Fuller. Where you at? Maria Delgado. You guys want to say something?
The only thing we want is just to be fair. We work a lot. We do Sunday through Sunday. We don't have days off. And we just want the fairness to be minimum wage. That's what we're fighting for, and that's what we're here for. And first of all, I want to thank each and one of you to support us and help us to do all this stuff. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Madeline Velasquez. As a former employee of Fontana High School, I never thought I'd find myself in a situation where I would be taking care of seniors, especially a senior who once took care of me when I was ill. And I'd like to thank you for recognizing us today. This is it's very difficult to take care of someone you love, and sometimes it's not even someone you know. It's a stranger. It's someone you know on your street who needed help. And that's how I began, taking care of a senior who lived in my neighborhood, who I noticed didn't have anyone coming in to watch her or make sure that she was having a healthy meal. And this is an issue that the city, the state, our county, everyone's going to be facing this. And so I would just like to leave with some words of hopefully encouragement for those of you who are have parents and relatives who are looking to their golden ages, that there's a lot of us out here who are willing to take care of them. And thank you for allowing us to share this with you.
I want to also thank thank Council Member Joe Baca Jr., the mayor, and the whole City Council, City of Rialto, for giving the home care workers this recognition today. I know we're getting close to the end of November, but we still made it on time to be National Caregivers Month. And you're actually the first city. We got kind of a late start on requesting these resolutions or proclamations, but we're also reaching out to several other cities across the county, but you're the first city that was able to move on this pretty fast, so we appreciate that. And just another side note, all the workers here, which in this case they're all women, so the issue of the wages is really also an issue of gender inequality, an issue of racial inequality. Most of our workers, most of the members of our union are of ethnic minority background. So we really appreciate any signs. They appreciate any sign of support to them. And all these ladies happen to actually live in Rialto. So they're all residents, and most of them are voters here. So as Councilmember Baca Jr. said, there's 1,638, I believe, home care workers in Rialto that are affiliated to our organization. In San Bernardino County alone, in the entire county, we have about 26,000 home care workers. And we're part of a statewide organization that has over 350,000 home care workers across the state. home care workers and nursing home workers. So anytime we can collaborate in city events, let us know. We would be happy to also support some community events. But thanks again, and happy holidays.
Thank you.
Let's give one last round of applause to SEIU 2015 and all our home care workers here in the city of Rialto. Let's give it up for them. Thank you for your service.
I have one more thing to say. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And I would just like to say something to all of you. I wasn't scheduled to be here, and it's amazing that things happen that I end up here for the council meeting. I will be leaving, but I just want you to know that I was part of the people who formed the United Domestic Workers in San Diego with Ken Msamaji and Greg Akili and all of us when we started. And I was also a representative for SEIU when we also went from one thing to justice for janitors. And I want to say to you, I know exactly what you're saying and what you're talking about, because we managed to move justice for janitors, where I used to say we could get better wages in situations for people who are cleaning trash cans, but we still can't seem to get the right recognized care and understanding that we have for people who are caring for others. I have a mother right now that's 90, and my sister is the caregiver, and I'm also power of attorney. And everyone up here knows that I go back and forth trying to help not only be that caregiver, but to lend the support to my sister, who is a caregiver. And as Joe said, we're all aging. She's over 60. She's got medical issues going on, and she's in there hanging in. And that's one of the reasons why I'm late today, on the phone with the doctor trying to get the medicine resolved. So it never, ever ends. And I just want you guys to know personally, I know what you're going through, and I know that the persons you're caring for, and if they're not a relative, they so appreciate you, because family sometimes doesn't rally around, and it's the caregiver who lets everybody know what's going on. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's what I've been dealing with all today, my mother's medicine and my sister. Thank you. I'm sorry. And first person?
Ms. Christina Scott for the gas company.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Even though we know you're in your
I'm with my gas company hat
yeah,
tonight.
Your gas
so
hat.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, and residents of the City of Rialto. My name is Christine Scott, and I'm a Public Affairs Manager for the Southern California Gas Company. SoCal Gas distributes natural gas to the residents of Rialto, allowing them to heat their homes and hot water, cook meals, and dry clothes economically and safely. Natural gas brings comfort and convenience to your residents. The employers in your city also rely on natural gas for many industrial applications. Natural gas is part of an energy balance portfolio. I'm here tonight to raise your awareness of an ongoing issue in California about which many people are unaware of. California wants to upset this balanced energy portfolio. California wants to electrify everything. A proposal which did not pass the legislature this year would have required all new buildings built after 2022 to be all electric, and would require existing buildings to be retrofitted to be all electric by 2030. While this proposal didn't pass, rest assured there's more coming down the way. The proposals are being made in the name of global warming, reducing greenhouse gas and carbon emissions, and other environmental goals. The goals are laudable, but a cost-benefit analysis just can't justify drastic actions. SoCal Gas does not oppose electrification. If you want to use only electric appliances in your home, that's the customer's choice. But don't take away the choice from those that want to use other fuel sources. The fact is virtually every home in the city of Rialto has electricity and most have natural gas. This is the balance. I'm alerting you of this balance being threatened with it because the economic stability of families and businesses could be threatened too. Forcing homeowners to replace their natural gas appliances is estimated to cost an average of $7,200 per home and the cost of electricity would be about $388 per year more than natural gas. There is an alternative. Biogas, or renewable natural gas, is natural gas which comes from organic sources such as dairies, cows. We can capture some of this gas, which now goes to the atmosphere, and then clean it and inject it in our pipelines. If just 16% of the gas we deliver to customers come from renewable sources, it will have the same effect on greenhouse gas emissions as electrifying all of California at a much lower cost to all. And this is a realistic goal to achieve by 2030. With a balanced approach, we can achieve goals, preserve choice, and minimize disruption and cost. The point is, customers shouldn't have to choose between what some decision makers in California believe is right for the environment and the reality of what families can afford. And with a balanced energy approach, we believe our customers don't have to. I'll be coming more as we begin the new year to give you more updates on this issue, and that way you're aware of it. But I thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. And I would just, Ms. Scott, just like to say that hopefully you have been invited to the groundbreaking of the new facility, Energia, which will actually be processing and creating biodiesel that would be fed back into Southern California Gas. Am I correct, Mr. Scott? Mr. Steele?
Sorry?
Energia, isn't that the purpose of Energia, is going to be creating the gas that would actually be given back to?
They plan to use some for their own purposes, and then if they have excess, they'll put it back into the grid.
Yes.
Well, that's wonderful. I haven't heard of that one yet, but love to be invited to that.
Well, we hope we'll get to the.
Thank you so much.
Invited.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council.
Any other oral communication?
Yes, you have Judy Roberts.
Sorry. Hi. The first thing I want to do is apologize for interrupting the meeting on November 13th, because I kind of hit the panic button with the fire thing. I was scared. When I got the call from my neighbor saying, I'm standing on my second-story window and I see these big, tall fires at Live Oak and Riverside, that did it. But I'm here because of all of the fire personnel, the police personnel, all the first responders that literally saved us. And if I cry, that's me. I'm an old lady. I'm a crier. We were all kind of standing by to evacuate because of what happened in 2003, but that didn't happen. There were few that evacuated, but everything was handled so efficiently, so proficiently between all of the departments that responded. And the helicopter, Channel 7, it was a miracle. I felt like it was a miracle. And I stayed up till 3:30. The firemen that were on the scene and the police officers and Public Works, they were there 3 days, securing because of flare-ups and so forth. And I can't begin to tell you, unless you've experienced it, you don't know how grateful that feeling is, unless you've experienced it. But I just happen to have a list, and I'll do it quickly. If my time's up, I understand. First, the Rialto Fire Department, number 204 on Alder, 202 on Riverside, 201 on Willow, 205 on Willow. And then the BC 803 Rialto, Chief 800 Rialto. Those were all the Rialto people that were there. And I know a few of them were there for a few days, so I thank them. Also, San Bernardino County Fire Department assisted. Battalion Chief 125, Battalion Chief 115, Battalion Chief 121, from Fontana, Assistant Chief from Fontana, Station 79 in Fontana, Station 78 in Fontana, Station 77 Fontana, 74 Fontana, 72 Fontana, 71 Fontana, and then Station 2 in Devore. The hand crew from Glen Helen, the Station 226 San Bernardino, 229 San Bernardino, 232 San Bernardino, Rancho Cucamonga Fire, 175, Station 175, 176, 173, and Loma Linda Fire, Station 252, Loma Linda, and the U.S. Forest Service from Station 32 in Glen Helen and Station 31 in Lytle Creek, and then CAL FIRE in the DeVore Station. So, and then all of the police officers, all the public works guys, and I ran into Tony Brandyberry in the lobby as I was leaving, and he had 2 phones going, and he's trying to get staff out to get barricades to close the streets, you know, and I couldn't believe the looky-loos. It took me an hour to get from here to my house because of all the looky-loos. The PD, you know, was, I mean, everybody was so great, and Public Works, just, I can't say enough thanks. Also, Sergeant Richard Royce and his team, they were great. They were great. Because I'm on call for Neighborhood Watch and stuff, and I had my radio, and I was listening, and I thought, oh my gosh, you know. And it's so cool because there's a you guys have a tablet. You connect with the, connect with the Channel 7 helicopter. That was so cool, and I could hear 40 King. I mean, it gives me goosebumps. I just can't say enough. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, I would just like to say I'm glad you had those were good goosebumps that you were having when you listened to them.
Next speaker we have is Lupe Camacho.
Okay.
Somebody left their stuff up here. Good evening, Madam Mayor, mayors, members of the council, staff, and fellow residents. My purpose for speaking tonight for oral communication is to reach out to the community. I've been doing quite a bit of reaching out regarding voter registration and voting information and specifics about voter registration and how people can get registered, particularly those who do not speak English. So I've reached out to the county voters registrar here in San Bernardino County and have gotten educated on the proper process and the proper format to do this, and also in the future to put together some voter drives for the city of Rialto. I'm reaching out to various cities in the area, also city of Colton, city of Fontana. I've reached out to as well. I've begun working with a lot of our local faith-based organizations. St. Catherine's of Siena, the Father Bricio over there has allowed me to make some presentations within the at the end of Mass, and I have gotten a tremendous amount of welcoming and gratitude from the Latino community, the Spanish speakers, and with the fact that I provide this information via email as well. So I just wanted to reach out and let Rialto know, all of the residents know, especially those that know of Spanish speakers that are a little bit shy about getting this information and how to get registered to vote and to prepare for the next elections of 2020, which are going to be extremely important for us, as we know, particularly under the umbrella and the colors that we are seeing coming out of the particular administration that we're under now. I think it's extremely important that we organize and that we coordinate and that we put together a concise voice and put that forth for 2020. I think that I relaxed myself a little too much, and I thought that there was going to be different outcomes from the elections, the presidential elections, the last ones. And I think that I owe it to the community, I owe it to myself, I owe it to my children, I owe it to the children of our community to get involved and do something, be involved, be active. So I invite the entire community to take part in it, and you can reach out to me at my email, my personal email, and that's Lupe Camacho, and then the number 12 @gmail.com. So if anyone should need it, I know the council members have it, and they can give it to anyone that has any information that they want to put forth. But like I said, I am working with some of the faith-based organizations currently and some of the Christian organizations within City of Rialto. So anyway, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any more oral communication? Okay.
Similar for tabs.
Okay. That concludes oral communications, and now we will move into anything City Council members to consider removing or continuing any items on the agenda. Mayor Pro Tem.
Madam Mayor, consent item C10, relates to the Holiday on Ice event at Riverside and Rialto Avenue. I will be abstaining on that item as I own property at 142 South Riverside, which is within 500 feet of that event.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I will be abstaining from C4, C5, C9, and tab 6 due to conflict of interest with my lease at the Renaissance Marketplace.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, if I may, tab 5, which is purchase of vehicles by police department. Staff would like to request to pull that item for further analysis and correction by police department.
All right.
And bring it back on December 11th council meeting.
Okay. Anything else? Is that it?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, just for me, item C11, I'll just be registering a no vote on just that item there.
What are we talking
C11.
What are we doing?
No vote.
Oh, okay. C11.
And a no vote for Councilmember Trujillo. He's indicating.
You have a speaker for C10.
C10?
Lupe Camacho.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, fellow residents, my purpose for wanting to discuss this item, I just wanted to bring kind of a thought. I know we do the ice, the Rialto Holiday on Ice, which my children are looking absolutely forward to. They can't wait for that to happen. But I was wondering about the possibility of maybe for future years, I doubt that it can be done for this year, but maybe for future years to do something like a posada. Between December 16th and 24th. That is when we typically have posadas, and it's a very culturally encompassing type of event that we tend to have as Latinos, and I'm sure some of the members of council are aware of that, or at least have vague memories of it. I know I have some vague memories. I didn't grow up in Mexico, but I do remember them back when I was like 6 or 7 years old. And some of the community members that I spoke with at St. Catherine's of Siena, some of the people that I spoke with about the voter registration brought forth that idea. So I told them I would bring it to council and mention it and put it out there for a possibility for the future. And if you need someone to help spearhead it, I'm at your disposal. So,
right. Thank you.
But thank you.
Thank you. I think that's something that definitely could be considered, and hopefully we could ask our community service to see how we can encompass it for next year. And I don't know if there's anything that would allow highlighting that in our current parade, but maybe there's something that we could be incorporated in the holiday parade to kind of bring that point in. Councilmember Carrizales?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And just to address Lupe Camacho, for the parade, I will be having a posada here, and we'll be giving out some of the traditional items after the parade. So we invite everyone to come on down, and maybe next year we could plan a little bit better and make it a lot bigger.
Great.
But thank you for bringing that up. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And I didn't know that, but I'll be looking forward to finding where you're going to have the posada.
Conchas and chocolate.
Okay. Oh, good. See. All right. I'll be there. Okay. I grew up, backed up against the border. So.
Yes.
If you could tell us where?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Yes, so it's going to be after the parade, and Perry still, we're working on some of the details, but it's going to be at the end here. Yeah, after the parade with there'll be some traditional horses and everything that are already going to be in the parade, so they'll be set up outside of the area here so that people could come and look at the horses and enjoy in the festivities. Thank you.
So I just hope that all of that is probably tantalizing everybody's curiosity, and more people will show up. Okay.
There's only, I will do a disclaimer, there's only 500 conchas, so it's first come, first serve. I do believe it'll be enough to...
Cover 500.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So,
Okay.
and the champurrado as well, so. Great. Thank you.
I know. Okay. Now, with that said, is there anything else? If not, I entertain a motion to move the consent calendar, recognizing that Councilmember Baca Jr. and Councilmember Rafael Trujillo will be voting no. Can I have a motion?
So.
And a second?
Second.
Okay.
And the vote, and the no vote is just on C11.
It was just on C11.
And
abstaining.
C10.
The abstentions are noted.
And I actually,
He made the motion.
so he has a conflict, so he can't.
They're noted on the record.
They're noted on the
They're on the
record.
record.
That's what I was going to...
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
With the
Move
record
it, move it.
reflecting, excuse me, with the record reflecting that Councilman Carashel made the motion, but he abstained on C4, C5, C9 of the consent.
All right. All right, hearing,
And you second.
so we've had a motion and a second, and if there's hearing no objections other than those noted, motion carries. Okay? And so that will take care of the consent calendar. And now moving into public hearing. And is there I would like to just say that if there's, is there any other item on the agenda, council, that would require that we need to have?
All members present?
All members
Not that
present?
I'm aware of.
Okay. Then if
Have
you-
a majority of the council.
Then if you don't mind, I will excuse myself and turn this over to Mayor Pro Tem Scott so I can get to the previous engagement. Thank you, guys.
Safe travels.
Thank you.
Okay, tab 1, which is a public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. This evening, I am here to request that the City Council conduct a public hearing regarding the proposed annexation of territory to the Rialto Landscape and Lighting District Number 2. Adopt resolutions 7429 and 7430 and tabulate the ballots for the annexation. The City of Rialto established LLMD2 to annex the public lighting and landscaping improvements related to the new development within the city. The city conditioned several development projects to construct parkway and/or median landscaping and to install city streetlights. Annexation into the LLMD2 is a condition of the city's acceptance of any publicly maintained landscaping and street lighting. Staff currently recommends the following development projects to be annexed into LLMD2. The first couple of slides are a north and south total view of the new landscaping district locations in blue. The existing are in green. So this is the north half of the city and the south half, south of Foothill. First is a non-residential commercial annexation, PPD 2017-0077, Wheeler Trucking. It's a 13,400 square foot industrial building and a 19,200 square foot canopy and associated paving, lighting, fencing, and landscape for a truck and trailer storage yard. Next is Margarita Homes, PPD 2018-0019. This is a residential annexation of 29 single-family residences, associated paving, lighting, fencing, landscaping, and amenities. It's located east of Cactus Avenue, approximately 280 feet north of Baseline Road. Third is Tamarind Warehouse, PPD 2434. This is a 384,893 square foot warehouse on the east side of Tamarind Avenue, approximately 250 feet south of Walnut Avenue. And lastly is Persimmon Warehouse, PPD 2435. It's a 473,455 square foot warehouse on the west side of Locust, 520 feet south of Persimmon Street. The city proposes to annex these areas into LLMD2 to fund in whole or in part the expenses required to service and maintain the improvements that provide special benefits to these parcels. If the areas are annexed into LLMD2 beginning July 1 of 2019, the city will levy and collect increased special assessments of approximately $18,975.96 for the fiscal year 2019-2020. At this time, I would ask that council conduct the public hearing and tabulate the votes.
Okay, this is a public hearing. If there's anybody wishing to speak on this item, now would be the time. Hearing, there's nobody? Okay.
Move to close public hearing.
I have a motion to close the public hearing from Councilmember Baca, a second from Councilmember Trujillo. Any objections? Hearing none, public hearing is closed. Madam City Clerk, can you tabulate the votes?
I have 4 envelopes, and the first one that we are opening PP, where is this PP? PPD 2017-0077 for Wheeler Trucking, and the vote is yes, I'm in favor. The next one we will open is Casimir Development. That is PPD 2018-0019. Yes, I'm in favor. And the next one we will open is PPD 2435. Yes, I'm in favor for PPD 2435. And the last vote that we will open is PPD 2434. And it's also voted yes, I'm in favor. So that's the tally of the votes. You have 4 votes and 4 in favor.
With that, a motion would be appropriate.
Move approval. Second. I have a motion from Councilmember Baca, a second from Councilmember Trujillo. Any objections to the motion? Hearing none, item passes. That takes us to tab item number 2.
Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Tab 2 is a request that City Council conduct the continued public hearing for consideration of updating fees and charges for civil engineering plan check services, close the public hearing, and table the action. Staff prepared an analysis to determine the cost of providing services for the plan checking services associated with development projects, and that public hearing had previously been continued to provide additional analysis in response to concerns about the proposed fees. Staff's requesting that Council table the item to allow additional time for a thorough evaluation of the market conditions, including costs and fees of other surrounding agencies. And since the basis of the fees varies among agencies based on different criteria, It requires additional time to go through the analysis of calculating what those comparative fees would be, and would be best to use various size projects, small, medium, and large, and also look at different land uses, industrial, commercial, and residential, so that there's a comprehensive look at what that landscape looks like and how the city's existing fees, and if there is any proposed fee increase, to how that would compare, so that the cities retains a competitive, it remains competitive in that marketplace. And so with additional time, more thorough evaluation can be taken and brought back with a more thorough analysis of the marketplace that's out there, and also allows an opportunity to look at what the costs are for those services more thoroughly, for a complete understanding of what that recovery to recover those costs would be. So staff recommends that the City Council conduct the continued public hearing, close the public hearing, and table the action.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Anybody wishes to speak on this item, now is the time. Madam City Clerk. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing? I have a motion from Council Member Carrizales, a second from Council Member Trujillo. Any objections to the motion? Hearing none, the public hearing is closed. Did anybody want to, you have any comments, council members? I do have one comment. I appreciate that you're pulling this off to take another look at it, but I would also like, when you do come back with it, that when we compare other cities to Rialto, that it's apples to apples, because I noticed in some of the comparisons you had in the report, there were sewer fees, water fees in some cities and some not. So we need to break all that out so that we know exactly what we're comparing those fees to. So if you could do that, that would be very helpful to us.
I just have one comment,
yes.
Mayor Pro Tem. You know, just as we're looking at the fees. I mean, the big thing is, Rialto is at a point now where we've had quite a bit of economic growth, and we continue to have more projects coming through. And we have to recover some costs. I get it, and I think the community gets it. But I don't want to get to the point where our fees are so exorbitant that we're pushing developers or people to come in the city and wanting to do business in the city, because I think it's important. We've made a lot of progress, but I'd like to see the progress continue.
Okay, great. Do I have a motion to table the action?
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Baca, a second from Councilmember Trujillo. Any objections to the motion? Hearing none, item is tabled.
And just a quick note, because it is closed, the public hearing is closed, the item will be re-noticed and appropriate notification provided in the future when it is ready to return.
Thank you. That takes us to new business, tab item number 3.
So Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council, it is my pleasure to announce to the City Council that after several months we've been able to select a new finance director for the City of Rialto. Just very quickly, some key points from the staff report. Finance director is a key executive department head position which reports to the city administrator and is responsible for managing all activities of the finance department. The department oversees purchasing, payroll, and information technology divisions. As I mentioned, the city has been recruiting for this position since April of this year. In the meantime, Mr. Ron Carr has been serving as an interim finance director, and this week is his last week of service. The city received a total of 59 applications for this position. Limited number of best qualified candidates were interviewed. Rialto Municipal Code, Section 2.04.100 grants the city administrator authorities for personnel appointments of the department heads, but must consult with the city council. These requirements have been met, and I have selected Ms. Jessica Brown as the top candidate for the position. Ms. Brown has worked for a number of public agencies related to the County of San Bernardino, including Arrowhead Community Services District, Apple Valley Fire Protection District, and the Finance and Administration, as well as the Board of Supervisors. Mr. Brown's labor agreement is attached to your staff report, and within the staff report, the key provisions are spelled out, such as salary and benefits and so forth. This position will serve as exempt and at will. She's scheduled to start on December 10th of this year. The fully burdened cost for the finance director position is included in your staff report, and the budgets have been approved and allocated for the current fiscal year, and no additional appropriations are required. With that, I recommend that the labor agreement with Ms. Jessica Brown be approved as Rialto's new finance director, and HR and I are happy to answer any questions. Also, Ms. Brown is available tonight in the audience.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, was there anybody that wished to speak on this item?
No.
Ms. Brown is in the audience. We all had the opportunity to meet and talk to her this evening in closed session. I want to welcome you to the city. Look forward to working with you. But I also wanted to thank Mr. Carr for his help and assistance with the city. It's been a pleasure working with you, and you've been a great asset to our city. So thank you very much for all your assistance.
Thank you so much.
Council, what's your pleasure?
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion from Council Member Trujillo, a second from Council Member Baca. Any objections to the motion? Ms. Brown, you're official. Thank you. Tab item number 4.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of City Council, on January 28, 2014, the City Attorney's Office, Alishire and Winder, and the city entered into what's called the Irwindale Fee Agreement for the City Attorney Legal Services.
Rialto Fee Agreement.
Oh, I'm sorry, Rialto Fee Agreement.
Irwindale.
My mistake. The firm has not requested any increase to its hourly rates since approval almost 5 years ago. Since that time, the CPI has risen approximately 12.3%, measured in October 2014 through October of this year. At its September 26th closed session, the City Council performed an evaluation of the firm's performance and provided feedback, which at that time City Council approved having an amendment to the agreement to return to the open session for approval. The proposed increase is less than the amount needed to keep up with the inflation, which would equate to approximately $21 per hour of increase for 2019, and then approximately $5 to $6 increase for the year 2020. Instead, the proposed increase would be phased in to be approximately $15 an hour beginning in January of 2019 and $10 per hour beginning in 2020. The specific amounts are included in your staff report. The city attorney would agree not to seek any increase for at least another 3 years thereafter. I recommend that the first amendment to the City of Rialto City Attorney Services be approved as presented.
Fred, we'd be happy to send your bills to Irwindale. Madam City Clerk, was there anybody that wanted to speak on this item?
Approval. Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Baca, a second from Councilmember Trujillo. Any objections to the motion? Hearing none. You're still here, Fred.
Thank you, City Council.
All right.
It's a continued pleasure to work for the City of Rialto.
Thank you for your help. And stay out of Irwindale.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Tab item 5.
That was continued.
Oh, we're continuing that. So we'll go to tab item 6.
Item 6, Mayor Pro Tem, is a request for the City Council to adopt Resolution 7413 designating the boundaries of a business center
pursuant to the Business and Professions Code, Section 5274, for a proposed freeway sign on property owned by the Thrifty Oil Company situated on the west side of Riverside Avenue north of the 10 freeway within the Gateway Specific Plan. As you know, Thrifty Oil owns a 1/4 acre site at Riverside Avenue and the 10 freeway. They have a gas station on the front, but there's a hole behind it that we've struggled to figure out an appropriate use for. Thrifty approached us with a proposal to construct a 100-foot digital display on the site, and the Planning Commission earlier this year approved a conditional development permit for that sign. State law generally allows these displays, but under very strict conditions that Thrifty must solely satisfy. One condition is that the city designate a business center and limit the advertising to business and products that are located within that business center. Our proposed resolution designates the Gateway Specific Plan area, bounded generally by San Bernardino Avenue on the north, the 10 freeway on the south, Willow on the west, and Sycamore on the east as that business center. So the sign could display products that are produced, sold within those boundaries, and businesses. So the sign that's attached to your staff report shows the display at the top, and it has tenant marquees that tenants within Gateway can purchase. On September 25th, the council asked staff to confirm with Lamar that the location did not obstruct their current sign that's located along the 10 freeway. We spoke with Brian Smith with Lamar, and he reported to us that the proposed sign did not obstruct the visibility of their sign at all. However, he did point us to some new legislation that was adopted in August, and we forwarded that to Thrifty, and they'll have to comply with all the provisions as I stated earlier. So staff's recommendation is for the council to adopt the resolution designated the boundaries of the business center pursuant to the Business and Professions Codes and generally designated the area within the Gateway Specific Plan I described. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Madam City Clerk, was there anybody that wished to speak?
No.
Council, do you have questions? Councilmember Trejo.
So you just mentioned that a lot of the advertising has to be restricted to the commercial center. I know on the 210 they offer opportunities for the city to promote our city events. Will there be a similar agreement to the Gateway sign?
Yeah, we actually have the right, I forget what it is, one rollover or whatever they call it through every cycle. So we will have the right to advertise public service announcements on the display. And we prohibited in our resolution adult entertainment uses, marijuana, those types of things. So there are some prohibited uses. And the council also asked us to prohibit political advertising, so that'll be part of it as well.
Okay. And we also have the same benefit on the Lamar sign.
Yes.
City advertising. Did you have a question?
Yeah, not a question, just a comment. No, and one of the things that I appreciate about this, I mean, clearly it's, you know, some competition to Lamar. I think competition is good, but I think the difference between this sign and what we have at Lamar is this one's actually going to promote Rialto businesses. I mean, this is to promote our businesses here in Rialto and try to encourage people to shop at ours. That's the difference. It's one of the things I like about this sign as opposed to Lamar. Not knocking Lamar, but you know, they're gonna advertise any paid advertiser, and this one's restricted strictly to Rialto. But I think this is good to encourage people, especially on that whole south end where we're doing a lot of development. I know that there's another project there on the south end that's going to be proposed, and hopefully they can have an opportunity to promote their business, encourage people to shop in Rialto and to increase sales tax in our city. So I'm in full support of this.
And I had a question as far as the actual permanent tenant signs. Have those already been decided?
Not to my knowledge, no. They've got quite a bit of work to get through the Caltrans permitting process, so they've had discussions with the major shopping center owners, but I don't think they've sold any of the placards yet.
Okay. All right, I too am in support of this. This did come to EDC, and our only concern was that it not block the Lamar sign, which it does not. So, Council, what's your pleasure?
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Trujillo, a second from Councilmember Baca. Any objections to the motion? Hearing none, item passes. Tab item number 7. Hector.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of City Council. Tab item 7 is a request to authorize a month-to-month amendment to the professional services agreement with Wildan Engineering. and authorize a purchase order increase of $250,000 for on-call public works construction management and inspection services for the first 8 months of fiscal year 2018 and 2019. The City of Rialto entered into an agreement with Willdan for on-call construction management and inspection services on May 28, 2013. The term of the agreement was for 3 years and allowed for 2 one-year extensions. The final extension of the contract expired on June 30th, 2018. When the contract expired, Willdan was performing CM and inspection services for a number of CIP and land development projects, as well as encroachment permits for various permitted utility work. A halt in these services would have resulted in significant impacts to new development and capital projects that were in the construction phase. Projects that were receiving services from Willdan included the Rialto Park Announcers Booth, which is under construction, the Frisbee Park Field Lights Project, which is substantially complete, the Rialto Booster Pump Station Project, which is under construction, the Renaissance Parkway and Linden Avenue street improvements, which is under construction, and Willdan has completed a final inspection for this project and has provided corrections to the contractor. The contractor is in the process of addressing corrections and anticipates completing these within the next 30 days. And the final development project that they were looking at was the Renaissance Park west of Alder Avenue street improvements. In addition, Willdan has been providing inspections on an as-needed basis for encroachment permit work, primarily by utility companies, most of which is in response to new development needs. Willdan also assisted city staff during the Caltrans audit recently conducted by Caltrans for the federally funded Ayala widening project. Willdan's assistance in this matter was beneficial to the city and resulted in a successful outcome. In regards to staff recruitment, the city has advertised recruitment for the position of construction inspector with first rounds of interviews held in November 21st, 2018. The city anticipates hiring the new staff member by the end of the year. The city staff is also preparing a request for proposals, an RFP for on-call professional services related to construction management, inspection, and material testing services for various CIP and land development projects. We anticipate advertising this RFP by late November 2018 and presenting award of contract to council by late February 2019. Staff estimates the total cost for these services to be $250,000 for the first 8 months of fiscal year 2018-2019, consisting of $127,156.80 for services already provided and $122,843.20 for services that would be provided through March 1st, 2019. Revenue received through March 1st, 2019, along with salary savings for the construction inspector, will offset expenditures to the subject projects. With that said, staff recommends that the City Council authorize a month-to-month amendment to the PSA with Willdan Engineering and approve a purchase order increase of $250,000 for on-call public works construction management and inspection services for the first 8 months of fiscal year 2018-2019. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Ms. Camacho?
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, and fellow residents. I've chosen to speak on this item predominantly because, again, it's another contract that we're giving to Willdan and extending a purchase order to $250,000. It sounds to me like we've already had them do work without having the money in place, and now we're sort of playing catch up. And I understand, I fully understand that. What I am not fully understanding is how we're holding Willdan accountable for the inspection and the construction management. I stopped and spoke with the gentleman's name is Tom Munoz of ACOM out there just west of Morris Elementary on Randall Avenue. They were doing some work. I happened to be out there picking up my husband for lunch, and he works for Rialto Unified School District and works for Morris Elementary. So I was there picking him up, and I run across this construction, and I stopped to just chat because this gentleman and I know each other from other work, and I ask about the inspector, and he informs me that the inspector has not been there all day. And we're talking at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when this conversation took place. He informed me that he was there early in the morning at 7:30, and it was there on the job site up until about 11. And then he went to his office to do some work, grab a bite, came back by 1 o'clock, and he still hadn't seen an inspector on site. I was informed by our Public Works Director, City Engineer, that Wildan is assigned to be, a person by the name of Chad from Wildan is assigned to be watching this project, or at least watching it every so often. But Mr. Munoz from ACOM informed me that there had been no inspector that he knew of in the entire week of last week. And there was only one person that came out for a short, brief time. It was a new guy, and he mentioned the name Arkin, which I found out later is a new gentleman that's working with us. So my concern is that there is these consistent contracts that we give to Wildan, and yet the inspection is really not occurring. I mean, for even just to check traffic, you need to give it a round at the morning hours to make sure traffic is set up properly as an inspector, and then just give it a round at the end to make sure that everything is appropriate and there were no hiccups in between. But this gentleman, Tom Munoz from ACOM, informed me that that never happened all of last week and Monday of this week. So I'm just, again, cautioning council and informing you of what information I acquired from the actual job site. So I know that we've already committed some money to having to pay these people, but with that kind of funding, you can bring, with $250,000, you can bring on an associate and an inspector, full-time, to the city, fully burdened. We know that because they told us that in the analysis financial that was provided by Mr. Rob Steele and also Lucy provided that during the BAC meetings. So anyhow, just wanted to share that with you and give you that information. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
No, that's what we speak about that.
Council comments, questions?
No.
I have a couple of comments. I too am concerned about the quality of work of Wildan. As I expressed to you a week ago Friday, Mr. Eisenbeis, I went out to the Renaissance and walked that entire project, physically walked it. And some of the quality of construction out there is terrible and should never have gotten by an inspection to begin with. And I can understand us expecting a contractor to go back and do some stuff, but some of the quality of the work that's being done out there is simply not acceptable. And I too have experienced staff telling me, Mr. Ansari, staff telling me that there are inspectors out on the jobs, and I've gone out on those jobs and there are no inspectors. I just think there needs to be a reevaluation on how we're dealing with the management companies managing our projects. They need to be out there. They need to be doing a better job managing quality construction, and I just don't see that happening. Very frankly, I'm going to vote against this item tonight. Council, any comments? What's your pleasure?
Move approval.
I have a motion from Councilmember Baca. Do I have a second? Having no second, item dies.
Can we, I just would like to just respond to some of the, what was said about the pipeline work out on Randall. That's actually a combination of in-house and Wildan doing that work. And without, based on having to go back out with the RFP, we can do that, but we do have to continue the construction of the existing projects that are under construction right now. We really are left with no other Avenue to continue that inspection work. And so on the Randall Avenue project, I don't know, Tom Munoz probably wasn't the right person to talk to on that from AECom. Their role is not the contractor. Elko is the contractor. And Elko, I did talk to their foreman, and they were out checking the traffic control. The main role we have right now is the traffic control. It is a closure that is in the daytime. The pipeline work is a combination of Veolia, our staff, and Willdan. And I think, we have walked some of those locations with Willdan that you've expressed, and they're aware, and they have a very extensive correction list for the contractor. Some of those items were done in an effort to get it open, and were identified as having to be corrected, and they will be taking care of those items. And I guess all I can say is that if we do not, we at least have to, and maybe we can alter the motion to, or the action to at least address the costs that we've already incurred since the time that, basically it's be from since June for services already provided.
You're bringing an item to us tonight for work that was done in June?
Well, the problem is we didn't have the ability to get the purchase order because the budget hadn't been approved at that point in time. And then when we wanted to bring back with a new contract, the direction is to go back out with an RFP, which we will do. But we do have to address the ongoing work and the work that's already been happening. And I think we wouldn't want to see all the work that's out there right now stop, because they would basically pull all their inspectors. And I pleaded with them 2 weeks ago to at least continue with providing some inspection until we can get this figured out. But I guess if that's what the council's pleasure is, then there's going to be some construction activity that we'll have to stop, because we'll have to be, or I'll have to be putting engineers out there in the field that will be impacting on other projects. So we're just asking to get through March while we can do the RFP and come back with a new contract through a whole new selection process.
Mr. Ansari, the council a number of times has brought up this subject of quality of work, and we've continued to be ignored on this item. Now we have an item on the agenda tonight for work done in June, that these dollars should have already been approved, and they're just now being approved.
Actually, then it's June 30th. So.
Yeah, June 30th, July.
Just to add to that, too, if you recall, the budget was late, so the departments were operating under the continuing appropriations resolution, so all the purchase orders were extended for a period of time until the budget could be approved.
So it's actually August, middle of August, I think, is where it actually
So at what point does somebody pay attention to the council? Just a question.
I think it's never the intention of staff not to pay attention to the city council. I guess this is a bridge to the time that the Public Works Department would send an RFP out. And also the other aspect of it is to expedite the hiring of the construction inspector and senior construction inspector, the two positions that have previously approved by the City Council and Public Works, so that we could significantly reduce these amount of contracts in the months ahead.
And where are we at on that?
We interviewed the construction inspector last week, and so that was the panel interviews, and I think we're scheduled for interviews next week to do this and hopefully make the selection at that point. So I would say probably in a few weeks we'll have our first candidates. It just comes down to the question of how soon they can start, but I would say by the end of the calendar year we'll have that position filled. And then we're also, I think you're flying the senior construction inspector this week.
Yes, that's tentatively scheduled to close for December 13th.
Okay, if you look at some of the problems out there in Renaissance, those improvements have been built for a long time. And some of those problems have been there for a long time. manholes that are open, not bolted down, that become not only a risk for our residents, but a risk for the workers, anybody that's out there walking, just being ignored, left there. I just don't understand that kind of work being ignored and not being handled. And I seriously got to ask, where is our city staff at? I mean, if I can take the time to take a Friday and walk around down there, anybody in this city should be able to do that. Anybody. And Mr. Ansari, what I'm really bothered by tonight is, I talked to you about this a week ago Friday. You guys have ignored me since a week ago Friday. Totally ignored me on this. I've got no email, no message that these issues have been handled out there, or what we're going to do to address the fact that we don't have inspectors and management people out on projects on Fridays. It just continues to be ignored. So I don't know how you expect anybody up here to vote for this tonight. I just seriously don't. What's your plan B?
Mayor Pro Tem, I had a question.
Sure.
Before you answer, if you don't mind. I know one of the comments you made earlier is that some projects would have to be stopped. So could you be more specific on which projects would have to be stopped as a result of us not passing this tonight, more specifically?
One of the projects impacted would be the Rialto Park Announcers Booth project. Wilden is inspecting and doing construction management for that project.
What project is that?
The Rialto Park Announcers Booth.
The one on San Bernardino.
San Bernardino.
Riverside they're putting together right now, which I know that has timelines because of federal funding.
Yes. The project is tentatively scheduled to be completed by mid-December. Another project.
Also, the booster pump for the Cracker Barrel site is also being inspected right now by Wildan.
Which is a private development.
Well, that's a public project.
How long would that hold that up until we get someone else in there to do it?
Well, I mean, you know, if we are forced to, we're gonna pull engineers and myself, and we'll go out and we'll cover the inspections to try to keep as much of these projects going as we can. But that's going to take away from the other work that those people are working on. So I think we just need to bridge this so that we can then get to go through that process.
Okay, so you mentioned the announcers booth, Cracker Barrel, any other projects?
There's a number of permit projects. There's the Randall Pipeline, which is the intertie four-party agreement with M-Hart. There's other projects that are related to development that are also utility work that's out on the west side of Alder, on Renaissance west of Alder.
And one of the projects we paid them to do is the Frisbee lights, didn't we?
Yes, that project's substantially complete, but we need to go through the closeout process. And
okay, look, I'm just gonna make a comment. Look, I'm not happy with the fact that, you know, we're going back and trying to fix this, but you know, on one hand, I don't want to see project being impeded, progress being impeded. The other thing is, I know we have a plan, so it's just a matter of us executing this plan, eventually getting it forward. And clearly, this is not the way to do business. No one's happy with the inspections, but you know, I don't want to see progress be hindered, and I don't know what we do to patch those two projects, which I know that the announcers booth has federal deadlines because we have to spend that money before the next round is coming up real soon. And then I'd hate to see Cracker Barrel be delayed, which is, you know, something that our community is really looking forward to. But you know, it's really the will of the council, and I don't know any other alternatives to this point.
Do you have an amended motion
for those two projects?
I'm just trying to figure a way to get somebody's attention here, because I've tried everything else and it doesn't work. So, Mr. Ansari, do you have a suggestion?
Well, my suggestion is that this is, you know,
as a long night here tonight.
Yeah, as I mentioned, this is a bridge to a plan that would be a long term to bring staff on board as
But
well
you-
as not impede the progress of the project.
I understand your bridge theory, but at the same time, you've got to be taking care of the quality of work that's out there. And somebody, number one, why do we have projects going on Fridays when nobody's around? Especially during the holidays when the Renaissance is packed with people and people can't even move because every intersection is torn up and under construction. Secondly, why don't we have inspectors when we do have to work on Fridays? Because these people are not out there. And we've complained and complained and complained, and it just goes on deaf ears.
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem, ever since 3 weeks ago that I did hear concerns about Thursday and Friday utility work with certain areas of high traffic, the Public Works Department has been directed, particularly Mr. Eisenbeis, to not allow as much as possible to for the developers or the contractors to dig trenches, and which requires inspection on Thursdays and Fridays. There are certain projects, according to Public Works, that would impact their schedule heavily. One example could be the Cracker Barrel and that AT&T a couple of weeks ago, and then gas company, which might be a little bit further north of the intersection. I do want to defer to Mr. Eisenbeis on the latest updates on some of the road improvements and the slurry seal and the manhole repairs that are in the queue. Mr. Eisenbeis, you want to give an update, particularly to the Renaissance roadways?
Well, the manhole situation was a result of AT&T accessing that manhole after it had been initially installed, and then they failed to secure it, but it is now secured.
How many manholes?
Well, there's the manhole in front of the 7-Eleven.
Manhole?
But I know that the
Four manholes.
Okay, so part of the problem is the utility had accessed those manholes after they were initially installed. But we did get AT&T to go out there and secure those manholes, and they did. My understanding is those have been secured. But also the contractor for the developer of the marketplace is planning to do the final slurry work out there to...
when is the slurry seal scheduled?
I believe it's in the next week or two is when they're planning to do that. They are still have a little bit more paving, I think, over on Locust to finish. There are some other concrete removals and replacements that are also scheduled. My understanding is they're looking to wrap up all of the correction items within the next 30 days, and it is an extensive correction list. And Wildan has provided personnel for inspection on the Fridays where there's been those projects. I've been providing a list of the projects that are they paid additional costs for overtime inspection on. And they've had full-time inspection on some of those projects. Some of them have been utilities that are related to development, so they've been providing not full-time inspection, but they've been able to rotate between those projects. And I've been in personal contact on Fridays with those inspectors, and we've also had Arkan Abdo, who's our in-house person, working also on those days. And I've been in contact with them, and I know our other engineers are also rotating to be in contact. Azam has been out there on Fridays as well. So I think there's an effort to provide that level of inspection even on a Friday, even if the city's closed, recognizing that some of these projects are under some tight timelines to try to, and I think one example is the project west of Alder on Renaissance. They're actually even paying to work on Saturdays, and they're getting full-time inspection for that sewer line that's being constructed, and now they'll be doing the street improvements because they have some obligations to meet with their tenant. So we're trying to accommodate some of those, but I think most of the other more routine utility work, we have suspended all of that on Fridays at your request, and that's been done, other than these ongoing projects that have been like pipeline projects and things that have been in the works for some time.
May I ask, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, just to suggest a potential alternative? This contract goes for 4 more months, up to March 1st of 2019. If you shorten that, let's say to maybe the end of this year, would it be possible to transition that work to another on-call inspection consulting firm? I don't know if that compromise would address the issues, but perhaps just to avoid impacting the schedule, because I heard you say it's within 30 days out on a couple projects. So if that gets us to the end of the year, is it possible to then transition the rest of the last 3 months?
We can certainly make an effort to do that, explore that possibility.
And then maybe at your next meeting, you can consider amending another on-call service.
Along that line, our item 9, our tab 9 later on here is for the other company. They're the only 2 companies we have.
Let's try to deal with tab 7.
I understand. So
that way you just, complete those projects without impacting a schedule, but not give them the entire 4 months.
That may be a good compromise, and also increase of certain staff that can be out there, doing the inspection. Arkan would be a good one, and he has proven, and maybe even office staff to a certain extent, and adhere to the direction that I have given you, Robert, that we do not want any utility cuts, particularly on Thursdays and Fridays.
All right, so I'll make a motion I'll amend my motion. I know there wasn't a second, but, clearly we want to make progress here, at least get us to the end of the year and get some of these projects done, particularly the announcer's booth for our residents that we promised a long time ago for our football league, and then clearly to keep Cracker Barrel moving. And we want to keep that project moving because that's an important, vital part of economic development for our community. So I'm going to make a motion to amend it till the end of this year, the end of December, the contract.
Second. Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Baca, a second from Councilmember Trujillo. Any objections to the motion? Hearing none, item passes.
The amended agreement.
With the amendments.
Yeah, the amended agreement at section 3.1 will say through December 31st, 2018, rather than through March 1st, 2019. Thank you.
Okay, tab item 8.
Tab 8 is a request that City Council award a construction contract to Madish Corporation in the amount of $3,637,964.93 for the annual street overlay project. And in light of the more recent conversation, we'll amend our recommendation to exclude the second part of that, which is the authorized the issuance of a purchase order to Wildan Engineering in the amount of $151,348 for construction management inspection services. And what we'll do is we will have an alternative and see if we can have Wallace provide those services instead, and we'll bring that back at the time of prior to them starting construction. I think my understanding is that they plan to start this work around the first week of January. So if we can come back the first meeting of January with that amendment, with that part of this, then we would still be able to move the project forward, unless the council is inclined to go ahead with what we have. But Public Works staff coordinated with Harrison Associates in preparation of the construction documents for the project. The design work included geotechnical investigation of existing pavement and subgrade conditions based on visual inspection of surface conditions and core samples obtained for each of the streets. The work also included evaluation of alternative pavement rehabilitation methods and their life cycle costs. The selected rehabilitation methods generally include full-depth asphalt reconstruction and cold milling, followed by new overlay surfaces. The project consists of the following street segments: Linden Avenue south of Foothill Boulevard to 437 feet south of 2nd Street, Merrill Avenue between Maple Avenue and Riverside Avenue, Rialto Avenue between Riverside Avenue and Sycamore Avenue, Valley Boulevard between Cactus Avenue and 640 feet east of Lilac Avenue, and then Valley Boulevard east of Riverside Avenue to the east city limits. On September 20th, 2018, the city advertised the project. On October 11th, 2018, the city received 5 bids. The lowest responsible and responsive bid was $3,637,964.93 from Maddich Corporation. Staff reviewed the bid, references, and contractor's license and found Maddich Corporation to be properly licensed and qualified. Maddich Corporation was the contractor for the city's 2 previous street overlay projects, both with favorable outcomes. Additionally, staff negotiated the scope. Well, again, we did negotiate a scope and fee with Willdan, but we'll forego that at this point. Our hope is that we would still award the contract to Maddich at this point. The estimated construction start date is January 7th, 2019. Estimated completion is June 11th, 2019. The funds are budgeted and available to cover the construction contract amount and the cost of construction management inspection services. So staff recommends the City Council award a construction contract to Maddich Corporation in the amount of $3,637,964.93 for the annual street overlay project, and will defer the portion of the recommendation for the construction management inspection.
Anybody wishing to speak? Tab 8?
No.
No? Okay. Comments?
Yeah. I know we have the bike lanes, and then we have the kind of like the curb improvements for handicap access. I'm just hoping again that you coordinate everything.
Yeah, so this project does include concrete repair work because it's required to bring ADA when we have an overlay like this. And then the bike lanes wouldn't be completed until this paving work is done. So that's the way that's been
I just want to make sure everything's coordinated so that everything comes out great in terms of the pieces coming together.
Anybody else?
Yeah, just a couple comments. I'm glad that we're upgrading these streets and, making them ADA compliant. I mean, that's really, really important because, what I notice around the city, we got a lot of families that push their children in strollers, people in walkers, or even people that are in wheelchairs that use a lot of these streets, especially like Merrill, which is a main street. And one of the streets I'm really happy about because I had asked for it, a couple years now between Rialto, or between Sycamore and Riverside. And I know Ms. Camacho recorded herself on Willow. I mean, if you recorded yourself on Rialto Avenue between Sycamore and Riverside, you'd probably hear a bunch more bumps. But I'm glad it's being done. I know at some point in time we're going to bring the capital projects back to this council. I know one of the priorities should be, in my opinion, is to really work on a lot of our roads. And the other thing I'd like to have Public Works keep in mind, we're having rains. So hopefully within the next week, if it rains hard, depending on type of rain we get or how much rain, but do the best we can to fill in as many potholes as we can with the rains coming. So.
I want you to understand that I'm not saying I prefer Wallace over to Willdan. I'm trying to get us to focus on the quality of work that these outside contractors are doing, and that's in a lot of areas. The mayor and I last week met with the building officials and the 2 consultants on plan checks, and there are similar issues there. Willdan didn't seem to want to pay a lot of attention to what we were trying to convey to them, but nor did the other company. But once again, what I want Willdan, if we're going to hire them to do management consulting and manage these projects, to do their job and to be out there on these projects. Councilmember Trujillo talks about the handicap stuff on Merrill. Well, I hate to tell you this, but you can go up to the Renaissance Parkway, which is brand new, and there's substandard handicap stuff up there. There's stuff that is not handicap compliant. So that's either the fault of us as a city the engineer who designed it, inside or out, and the company managing the project. That's their fault. And we can't afford to continue to have this stuff done, that we have to go back and redo work. So, you need some management on this project. I'm not sure. I'd like to hear from you again how you're going to deal with this this amount from Willdan, whether you're going to bring that back to us before the project start, whether it's Willdan or Wallace or somebody else, or what you're going to do. But we've got to get these folks' attention.
Well, I will say, Chris Baca from Willdan is here. He might be able to address some of that. I know that I will tell you that the past two paving projects, the personnel that they've had in those projects working that, as far as the materials testing and the inspection, has been exemplary on those paving projects. We've had no problems on those paving. And part of it is, I will say Matich is a responsible contractor that takes pride in their work. So all of those things become factors in having a successful outcome. So that's part of why our recommendation was really to go with that same team, because they really worked well as a team. I know that Chris had Barry Knutson full-time on the paving, and he also had his materials testing people out there. And I don't know if you noticed, but on the San Bernardino, the Bloomington, the Cactus, those projects had full-time inspection that was 100% of the time there. And certainly I know Willdan is willing to work with us on having the number of people that we need in some of the other projects. And I mean, I know Chris would be willing to address that or take questions on that. But we have had conversations about increasing the amount of staff on some of these projects so that we can have more oversight than what we have right now.
Also, Mayor Pro Tem, if I may, as you recall, last week we had 2 meetings held with the Willdan and another consultant that provides services to the building division. I spoke with Mr. Chris Baca this afternoon, and another meeting on the public works aspect of Willdan services is going to be scheduled with your presence and Mayor's presence to discuss any concerns and hopefully to improve the quality of work that they do out there.
Mr. Baca, did you want to speak on?
My name is Chris Baca. I'm with Willdan Engineering. I've been with Willdan for 32 years. I run the construction management and inspection group for Willdan. I've been working here in Rialto for approximately 6 years, started with the Pepper Avenue Extension project. So I've been listening. I come to the council meetings, as often as I can. I hear the things that are said, and we do take everything very seriously. And I'm here to listen, and I'm always willing to learn something new. I'm always open to criticism. I feel like sometimes there's things that, for Renaissance, for example, we haven't had anybody on the project basically since August. We provided Lewis with a punch list at the end of August. It was extensive. At that point, Lewis is managing that project. There's also other folks performing inspections on that project.
So you weren't there a week ago Friday?
I was not there a week ago Friday, no. So as far as I know, we do have.
I have messages from you in my phone that say differently. So
Yes, and I
we'll talk
deny
about
the
this.
information that I get from Public Works
Okay.
that Willdan was inspecting.
I can clarify. So we have 2 different types of services we're providing. So we have staff augmentation, where we provide an inspector, like a permit inspector, that reports directly to the city and is being supervised by the city staff, which would be Chad Meekler. We have other folks on the CIP projects, which those are different. That's like Bud Bender Park. When I work with you, Councilman Baca, on Bud Bender Park, which went very well. We had Ayala widening, federally funded project, which was audited by by Caltrans and passed the audit with basically no comments, which is almost unheard of. Other projects like that. Those staff members, we have more supervision over those folks. We have a management staff in place. Those projects are handled somewhat differently. So it's possible, unbeknownst to me, Chad may have been on that project, but that would be through the city staff, and they'd be directed to provide those inspections. Those are for permits.
And that was for utility permit.
Right.
So he was working.
And those we're not privy to, we're not, aware of what their day-to-day activities are.
So what I'm hearing is a distinction between the roadway CIP type projects and inspecting the permit, which is by the developer or the utility company that cuts the
Yes, and then we handle those much in the same way like a building inspector would handle a building inspection. They're notified by the utility company, or they're called out to provide an inspection, or they're notified by the city staff that a permit's been pulled, and then they make a periodic visit. They're not out there on a continual basis. They may be out there, as Ms. Camacho said, that was a good point. They could come out in the morning, maybe they come back in the afternoon to check the traffic control, that sort of thing. Sometimes some of our inspectors, like for example, the last couple of weeks, basically with what happened, I had to take out most of our staff. We only had one staff member in the city. And when I checked his time cards, he had upwards of 15 to 20 projects he would check in one day. That's almost impossible. Nobody can do that. So
why do you only have one person?
Because that's all we had monies available. I couldn't put any other staff members.
Wow, we paid you guys a lot of money.
Well, Chad is really works as almost like staff augmentation. He's assigned to us full time, and that's part of why he's more taking direction directly from us in terms of the permit activity, and he's responding to the amount of permits that are issued. And so he's working directly with our staff on a daily basis about the permits that are ongoing and have been issued, and being contacted by the individual contractors that are working those permits. He's also out enforcing when there is work happening that is not permitted, and he has kept records of, and I'm compiling those records that you've requested, Mayor Pro Tem, about the level of finding people working without permits, especially like on weekends and such, and that has decreased since we've been using him as a full-time staff augmentation. My intention is that once we are able to hire our inspectors, they would basically assume that role, and we would no longer need that augmentation, at least for that portion of the project. But it is very different for the CIP type inspection that happens.
Yeah, my
like on this
understanding
project.
that is, if I'm correct, that you've been satisfied with Chad's performance, that he's been
Yes.
providing the inspections that the city has requested. And
So you did your punch list on Renaissance in August?
they actually did it the first week of September, and the AT&T manhole was on the punch list.
Has there been any follow-up on that punch list?
We were, at that point, he was relieved from his duties on that project, and at that point, there's been follow-up, but it's just Lewis managing the project through KEC. They're supposed to be following back up with the city to request the final inspection. We haven't even done a final inspection. That's only preliminary.
So then you have had people assigned on an as-needed basis based on Lewis, some of the work they've been doing, like the paving work they did last week. You had some inspection for
Right.
that. 2 weeks ago, there was some paving and some concrete work that you had Barry out there for. So it's been kind of based on when Lewis is going to do the work
But
and
we've
notifying
done
us.
nothing on going back on the August, September punch list.
And that's Lewis is scheduling that with their contractor. I did ask them for a schedule of when they would be going back to.
When did you do that?
That was probably in around middle of September.
Okay.
Some of that had to do with the scheduling with some of the other utility cuts, with some of the cuts that were still going to be made. They didn't want to do permanent repairs if there were going to be more cuts made for some of the utilities for the new uses that are going in on the marketplace. So a lot of this is a matter of coordination. And so, I mean, at some point, they were trying to juggle all those different things in how they timed all these corrections.
But I am here. I do come to the council meetings. I'm open to criticism, and I'm here to listen. We do take your concerns
I would
very
suggest that
seriously.
you and the upper management of Wildan come to the meeting that Mr. Ansari has proposed, because we're going to get to the root of what's going on here and get it fixed.
And just so everybody understands, I take responsibility for it. The buck stops with me. I am upper management. I'm the director of construction management and inspection for Willdan, for the entire Willdan. We're a nationwide company, and I've taken my time to come to these meetings. I am responsible.
Okay,
it is
good.
me.
Good.
And if
Thank
there's
you, sir.
criticism, it should be directed at me.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Of the entire thing, or less Willdan?
What was the preference to not have Willdan?
Well, I don't know.
No.
Somehow, we've either got to stop these projects or we've got to fix what's wrong here.
If I may, because of the distinction that I mentioned earlier with respect to the CIP inspection and the inspection that is for permits and private development related, I recommend that you approve tab 8 as noted, as presented with the $151,000 construction management and inspection, because that's CIP project. It's not private development. Otherwise, with everything else that is going on, it would be difficult to provide other resources for this particular CIP project. That's my recommendation.
Okay. The approval?
Okay, so just for the record, it's as presented.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Madam City Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Baca?
Aye.
Councilmember Caracellas?
Aye.
Councilmember Trujillo?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Scott?
No. Takes us to tab item number 9.
Tab 9, it's similar to tab 7. It's a request to authorize a month-to-month amendment to the professional services agreement to Wallace & Associates and authorize a purchase order increase of $388,000 for on-call public works construction management and inspection services for the first 8 months of this fiscal year. The City of Rialto entered into an agreement with Wallace for on-call CM and inspection on October 27, 2015. The term was for 3 years, and the contract expired on October 26, 2018. When the contract expired, Wallace was performing CM and inspection services for a number of CIP and land development projects. A halt in services would have resulted in significant impacts to land development and capital projects in the construction phase. Projects receiving these services from Wallace are the Joe Sampson Park project, the Community Center ADA improvements project, the citywide roof repair project, Fire Station 205 Phase 1 project, and 44 land development projects. In regards to staff recruiting, as previously said, the city anticipates hiring new staff by the end of this year for a construction inspector, and staff anticipates advertising a request for proposals for CM and inspection, material testing, by late November 2018, and present award of contract to council by late February 2019. Staff estimates the total cost for these services to be approximately $388,000 for the first 8 months of this fiscal year, consisting of $172,628 for services already provided and $215,372 for services that will be provided through March 1st. Revenues received through March 1st will offset expenditures for the subject projects. With that said, staff recommends authorization of a month-to-month amendment to the PSA with Wallace & Associates and approve a purchase order increase of $388,000 for on-call public works, CM, and inspection services for the first 8 months of fiscal year 2018-2019. That concludes my presentation.
Ms. Camacho?
Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, and fellow residents, as I sat there listening to how the funding is being distributed and how the contracts are being awarded for all of this construction management, inspection, and material testing, it became very apparent what is happening here. The process, and this is 15 years of experience talking, the process that is being done is backwards. We have in this city hiring Chad from Whaledan for permits, and he's stable. He's someone that is full-time with us, staff augmentation, and we don't have that for our CIP projects, which are our infrastructure. That is, I have never seen that in any of the cities I've worked for, and I've worked for 5 cities. I've never seen that, ever. And for any other agency that I've spoken with, Fontana, I have never seen that kind of management. Consultants are only as good as they are managed. They will do what we need them to do, and they will follow us to the letter of the law because their bread and butter depend on us. But if we're mismanaging what is going on and we're assigning full-time augmentation to permits, and we're assigning people on call to inspectors on call to our CIP projects, we are working backwards. First of all, we have a disconnect. Our CIP projects need to connect. Everything is related. Mr. Ansari knows this. All CIP projects are connected in one way or another. It's all part of our large infrastructure. It's part of what we live in and what we use on a day-to-day basis. So that connection must be there. Chad should be in charge and inspecting all of our public works and working on nothing but public works, all of our CIPs, so that he knows what is going on, and our project engineers in-house, our 3 associates that we have, can directly have one inspector that is accountable for all of the projects and can keep them up to date. This flip-flopping back and forth between Wallace and Whaledan, and sometimes that other company, I forget the name, but we have several companies, it's insanity. This is the reason why we can't keep track of our money. As I sat there, I realized why this is happening. I have never seen it done this way, ever, in 5 different cities that I've worked for, and the mixing of land development inspection with CIP inspection, that is the biggest chaos you can possibly ask for. Those need to be separated. My recommendation is that you separate the two, ask for separate proposals, separate budgets, separate sources of funding. Yeah, it's a little more trouble for finance, but it just takes care of a huge headache. Right now, this 250 for Whaledan, the majority of those projects were permits, were land development. And that shouldn't be the case. Land development should be able to function and keep going because they pay for their permits. They pay for their inspection. So that should be absolutely separate from our CIP and should not be tied at all to the Rialto Park. Our Rialto Park is our Rialto Park, and we decide what we do with our parks and how quickly we move on it and how quickly we administer the project. But this absolute mixing, it creates a lot of chaos, and I can see absolutely why that chaos is happening, and that's why our council members cannot clearly understand where the money is going and how it's being spent. It makes absolute, it dawned on me as I was listening here. And then you've got the reverse going on. You've got full-time people that we hire as staff augmentation doing the work that should be done by people on call, because people on call are the people for the permits. Permits, they can come in, they can come out, they can jump in, they can jump out. It's someone else's project. But our infrastructure needs to be watched by specific inspectors to maintain the continuity and the information with our engineers so that we don't have issues with ADA. We don't have issues with infrastructure not matching up. That's, like I said, I've never seen it done this way. My recommendation is that you request and require that these be separated and that the opposite be implemented. Instead of hiring these on-call for our public works project, we get people who are stable and people that, again, like I said, the consultants are only as good as they're managed, and that I know for a fact. I've managed many, many consultants, and I've seen it happen over and over again. It's only as good as the manager's managing it. But if you're not on top of them, you cannot put all of the blame on them. That's impossible. So that's my recommendation. Again, from so much experience that I have in so many cities I've worked for, I've never seen it this way, and I think that this is where all this ambiguity and confusion is being created. So that's my recommendation to you as council. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hayes?
June Hayes, Madam Mayor, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Sorry about that, Ed.
I've been called worse.
By me. Members of the council. You know, I hold a professional license, and every 2 years I have to renew my license. The psychology board doesn't say, oh, June, okay, well, I know you're 3 months late in renewing your license, or you didn't finish your continuing ed, but we'll just let you continue to function. You know, whenever you feel like getting around to renewing your, quote, contract with us, we'll deal with that. I had a colleague one time who didn't complete her continuing ed in time, and she was unable to function as a professional until she took care of business and renewed her contract. And yet, meeting after meeting, I sit here and I listen to this contract ran out in terms of the Willdan thing in June, in terms of this one, end of October. If I, as an individual, have to keep track of my stuff, not only my home, but my work and stuff like that, why is it that council is continually put between a rock and a hard place in terms of approving things for back money because contracts were not timely bid out or timely renewed, timely brought before council to make a decision on whether they want a contractor or not? I sit back there very frustrated as a resident because I don't want our city to get the reputation of not paying our bills, but on the other hand, if we continue to allow people to work without a contract because we don't bring contracts forward timely, all of the problems that you've been talking about are going to continue. So what are we going to do about that? Thank you.
Council, questions, comments?
I have a comment. Just, you know, hopefully, you know, I know that a couple members of the public, I know my colleagues have all made comments, and hopefully the message is loud and clear, you know, to staff and the public that, look, we want to do things a little bit different here. We want to make sure we address these issues in regards to the contracts, accountability, you know, but and we're also getting staff in place to try to help deal with some of these things. But, you know, at the same time, you know, I know it was mentioned by June Hayes, we're between a rock and a hard place, you know, approving these projects. I'm looking and I'll just name some of the projects. Joe Sampson project is on there, which is almost done. And, you know, that's supposed to be open to the public sometime in January. I know right now that it's under construction, all the ADA improvements at the Johnson Community Center, citywide roof improvements. We got rains coming. Fire Station 205, which we had a groundbreaking just last month. And just on the private sector side, Chick-fil-A, which I know a lot of our community members are very, very excited about, is on this list. Cracker Barrel is on this list, and there's many more, but those are the ones that really stood out to me personally. But, you know, hopefully the message is loud and clear. We can address this issue, but at the same time, I don't want to prevent progress of these projects not being finished. So that's just where I'm at on the issue.
Maybe I can clarify. There is separation between CIP and the augmentation for permit work. The CIP is a completely different staff people from both of these companies. These contracts have two components. They have the on-call component in the sense that it's on-call because it's not a definite quantity, definite amount. It's all predicated on the amount of permits that we issue and the fees that are paid for that. On the capital side, we actually get proposals that nail down their hours and nail down what the scope of that work is, and that has its own separate purchase order for the work that's done under capital projects, but it's all under one overall contract, and I suppose we could separate those into individual contracts, and that's something that if that was the pleasure, we could do that. At this point, the structure is there, though, so that we get maximum flexibility as a city, and we're able to move those pieces where we need them. But I will say that we do have dedicated staff for each function, and same thing with Wallace. They have Pete Ayala is out there for the development side, and along with Eric Maher. They are dedicated only to the land development functions. They are not on the capital. On the capital side, we have John Redinger, who's doing the fire station, the parks, the ADA improvements. And so there is a definite separation between those. I don't want somebody to think that this is all conglomerated together and commingled.
I have a couple of questions. Wallace is doing the construction management on Joe Sampson Park?
Yes.
The community center ADA?
Yes.
Do you know what percentage of completion is that construction? Where it's at?
That's just getting started.
And how about the citywide roof repair?
That is probably 75%, maybe.
The citywide roof repair is expected to complete construction in January 18th, weather permitting. The community center ADA improvements is in construction and expected to be completed January 15th.
Okay, and
early
then,
next year.
Then on table 2, you have these land development projects, which includes the Cracker Barrel. It says Pad 1. What did they do on that?
So there is a separation between what building does on site. I think we're really mostly flat work, and maybe if there's engineered utilities other than some of the laterals. So there's a distinction between.
So is that
building department and then.
Is that inspections?
It's inspection of on-site improvements that are more of the horizontal improvements.
Okay.
Construction loans, we ask Wallace Associates to be our inspector for the construction loan.
Okay, gotcha.
It's primarily inspecting the improvements that are on the precise grading plans.
Okay.
But they will also do utilities if they're directly related to that development. So some of the utility cuts they've been.
Can we get some kind of a breakdown? Can you give council a breakdown on Wallace personnel versus Willdan personnel? In other words, sure. I'd like to know how many people they have out in the field doing these projects. I mean, let's take Joe Sampson Park, for instance. I've also been there. It's a great job. The contractor has done an excellent job on that project, and it's almost finished. So it's clearly on schedule and has moved along very well. So that's one place we have a success. I'd like to know how we got that success. So I'd like you to give us some kind of a report on a breakdown of Willdan personnel in the field versus Wallace personnel in the field, and kind of what they're each doing, if you can do that, if it's not a big deal.
Certainly.
Okay. All right. Anybody else?
No.
Council approval. Second. I have a motion by Councilmember Baca, a second by Councilmember Trujillo. Any objections to the motion? Hearing none, item passes. Tab 10.
Tab 10 is a request that the City Council award a construction contract to PALP Incorporated, doing business as Excel Paving Company, in the amount of $1,078,852.95 for the Metrolink parking lot expansion project Phase 2, Also authorize issuance of a purchase order to Wallace and Associates in the amount of $142,122 for construction management and inspection services, and authorize the city administrator to approve contract changes in the not-to-exceed amount of $54,000. The original scope of work for the Metrolink parking lot expansion project included the addition of 230 parking spaces to the existing 175-space parking lot. The project was split into 2 phases to avoid delays associated with right-of-way acquisition. By splitting the project, it allowed the first phase to move forward with construction while the city pursued additional acquisition required for phase 2. Completion of phase 1 construction increased the parking lot capacity by 122 parking spaces. Phase 2 construction will increase parking capacity by an additional 100 spaces. On September 7th, 2018, the city advertised the project. On October 18th, 2018, the city received 14 bids. The lowest responsible and responsive bid was $1,078,852.95 from PALP Incorporated, doing business as Excel Paving Company. Staff reviewed the bid, checked references and contractor licenses, and found Excel Paving Company to be properly licensed and qualified. Based on evaluation of reference checks and compliance review, staff recommends that the City Council accept the bid received from Excel Paving as the lowest responsible and responsive bid. Additionally, staff negotiated the scope and fee with Wallace & Associates to provide construction management and inspection services for the proposed project. The estimated construction start is January 8th. Estimated completion is May 21st, 2019. Funds are budgeted and available to cover the construction costs, including construction management and inspection services. So with that, staff recommends that the City Council award a construction contract to Excel Paving in the amount of $1,078,852.95 for the Metrolink parking lot expansion project phase 2. Authorize issuance of a purchase order to Wallace & Associates in the amount of $142,122 for construction management and inspection services, and authorize the city administrator or his designee to approve contract changes up to $54,000 to address any additional requirements that and any unforeseen conditions. Eddie Rodriguez with Excel Paving Company and Carl Wallace with Wallace Associates are in attendance tonight for any questions.
Okay. Ms. Camacho.
Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, and fellow residents. In this particular tab item, clearly, once again, we're doing the additional $142,000 for Wallace, even aside from the $388,000 that's already been approved. And again, as June stated, we seem to be coming back and asking for money at the late stage of the game after we've already actually spent the money, which I don't think should be happening at all. If we're going to have any sort of contract, it should be well ahead of time. It should be, council should have at least a couple of months prior to actual award for you to review and take a look at, instead of putting you up against the wall. It was my understanding that council gave direction to go back and take a look at the CIP projects, revamp them, and decide which ones could be put on hold and which ones could be removed, which ones could be proceeded on. There was going to be that sort of an analysis that was going to come back to council for council review and for council consideration. I don't believe that that has happened as of yet. I haven't heard anything of it. And yet we keep going out with these projects for construction. Once projects go out for construction, this is why I give so much warning about authorizing to go out to bid. Because once projects go to construction, once you've started that bid process and that you are going to go to construction, you can't stop that freight train. You just can't. If you stop it or try to stop it, you're going to pay dearly. So my advice to council, as residents, because we are trying to control our budgets, trying to control our money, we are trying to find accountability of where the money is going. And like I said, there's a whole lot of ambiguity here. in my view, a tremendous amount of ambiguity, even in your view. I hear you, and I feel for you because you're up there trying to make these decisions on the fly. And not to say that I would do any better, because I probably wouldn't with the lack of information that you receive as council members. But again, I caution you against future projects authorizing things to go out to bid until that CIP project plan is revamped. And I know Mr. Ansari is working on it, and he's collaborating with Mr. Eisenbeis, but I would recommend against authorizing any more authorizations to go out to bid, and starting those freight trains that we can't stop, that we cannot stop once they've begun. So that is my 2 cents on it. And I wanted to remind you again, the answer is not necessarily throw more people on it, let's hire more, let's bring more people on it. The answer is let's bring the people that are going to pay attention and have city oversight and city accountability for what's happening out there in our streets. So that's my recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
I do have one.
Yes.
So on the map, it just shows like the 2 kind of areas for the parking lot, but it doesn't show kind of the tunnel. Is that I remember it? That connects one parking lot to the other? Is that separate?
Yeah, there's a separate project that's a future project that SBCTA will be constructing as a double track project and build a platform on the south side, so that they'll have 2 tracks and they'll have 2 platforms. So this project is out in front of that, but this is federally funded. There's no city money in this project. It's all funding that we got through Omnitrans Federal Transit Agency administration, and also through SBCTA. It's part of the Prop 1B PTM ISCA funding, and this does have a time clock on these funds. So this project does need to go forward so that we can get the improvements in. It will be usable. People will have to walk around using the crossing, so it may not get a lot of usage until that double track project comes in with SBCTA. They're pursuing that currently. They've gone through the environmental and planning stages, but it's still going to be a few years before, and they still need to get additional construction funding for that project. But that will include either a tunnel or some other form of crossing between the 2 platforms.
So there's not going to be as much use for it in the short term as your.
I mean, there will be. It will be a overflow lot that will still provide a path of travel that will go over the crossing at Riverside and then around, and then there's a way to get to the platform from there. But it'll be a longer walk. I suspect that more people will use the north lot unless it fills up, and then it would spill over to that. So this is really in advance of the SBCTA project.
But I mean, as this is being constructed, there'll be a means to kind of go from one side to the other.
Right. You'll have to walk to the Riverside crossing. There will be a path of travel for that.
Anybody else? Why aren't both of those projects being done at the same time?
The SBCTA project is a longer process. It's involving double track for several miles. It's going through more than just Rialto. And I know that they have, like I said, completed the environmental on that.
Well, wouldn't the tunnel be built before that gets done?
And it's going to be built with that double track project. We've been attending their team meetings. We've looked at their plans.
So why would we move ahead with a parking lot? This is kind of like the bridge to nowhere.
I understand. It's really to take advantage of the Federal Transit Administration funding that we would otherwise could lose if we are not using by a certain time. So it's really come down to timing. This was originally going to be an expansion of the north lot, but that became infeasible.
I don't want to get into that. We all know about that.
Yeah.
My question is, why aren't these 2 projects done together? To build a parking lot over on South Street that you have to walk clear around to get to me doesn't make sense. And when this came to EDC, I don't recall anybody saying that they could be several years apart.
I don't.
And my next question is, how are you going to keep people from just getting out of their cars and crossing the railroad tracks, which is going to be a really dangerous issue?
So the project we're building will have a fence that will.
What kind of fence?
It'll be like a tube steel fence that will, and there will be a gate for the future platform, but that gate will be closed until that platform is there. And like I said, so there will be a path of travel that they'll have to walk around. I think this
parking lot's going to sit there for how long?
That's a good, I mean, I can't speak to the SBCTA timing. I know they are actively pursuing the project. They have been, they've got plans at about 35% complete.
So give me your best guess.
You know, if they can secure the additional funding they need, we're probably looking at a couple of years.
And when does this funding expire?
Well, the current funding would expire a year from now. So we have a little bit of time, but, you know, we really need to get this completed because we've been sitting on this money for some time now to do this. It was going to be an expansion of the existing lot initially.
And right now, the existing parking lot is over capacity already?
Well, projected to be. That's the whole purpose behind this project, is that the projections were that by the time that double track project goes in, that we would exceed the capacity. But again, that's based on the SBCTA's and Metrolink's projections.
Mr. Steele, what is the status of the apartment project that was to be done over there?
That project is seeking tax credits.
And that is very competitive these days, so I think they've made 5 applications, and they're scheduled to submit for the 6th in March. So there's 2 application rounds a year.
So they're 2 or 3 years away, too.
They're struggling, just like all the tax credit projects are right now, but there's expected to be more funding from the state.
Can I ask why this didn't all come back to EDC so that we kind of had a warning that we were going to build a parking lot before anything else was built?
Yeah, I know it was at EDC, and it was a long time ago. It was a year and a half to 2 years ago.
It was maybe 3 years ago.
Because we had to split off the parcels, obviously, and make the decision. Because originally, you know, the parcel was all housing. And we split off the portion to make a parking lot and then a smaller housing project.
So are there any other projects we can use this money for?
Actually, it was part of the challenge here was that the mayor was concerned that SBCTA was going to claw back these funds, and I think this project came out of an effort to make sure that we retained those funds, and that was, you know, so I know the mayor was very adamant about moving this project ahead so that they did not, because they were looking to try to use the funds in Upland to expand the parking lot there, and I think there was definitely some resistance to letting them do that. And my concern would be that if we don't move forward, that's exactly what they'll attempt to do.
I have one more question. The property east of Phase 2, what is that going to be?
I think that's the housing
Is that the
project we were talking
about. The
about.
housing was north of, or south of that.
There's also a project on the south side, but the one that we've been involved with National Core is on the north side, adjacent to the parking lot.
It's just east of it.
Yes. So it joins, I think, the back of the strip center there, and then the parking lots to the west.
I mean, one thing we could do is pursue the possibility of trying to advance the tunnel with SBCTA if there's some additional, because there is some additional funds left in the federal funds, and that might be something we could pursue so that the parking lot would become more usable if we were able to advance that, but we'd have to coordinate that in the sense that it doesn't interfere with the double track project or become somehow affected by that project. But I think that's something we could have discussions with SBCTA about, the possibility of building the tunnel ahead of the double track, possibly.
Well,
that would make more sense.
When this came to EDC, it was a parking lot with a tunnel. I remember the presentation very well, because there was a tunnel and then there was a bridge going over.
And it's 2 separate projects. SBCTA brought that forward. I think they had a more aggressive schedule initially, but they're again, they're looking for some additional construction funds at this point.
Would the construction of the parking lot, Robert, be, for the lack of a better word, a negotiating chip, to further discussion with SBCTA to get the tunnel going and expedite it, perhaps?
It might be.
There is need on the other side.
I think that might give some leverage to that.
Mayor Pro Tem, clearly this is a project that has some strings attached. To reprogram it, to redesign something or there's nothing we could put this in today that's shelf ready. I mean, let's just face it, we can't do that. But, not comfortable with this project. I mean, it's not really a need yet, but I guess we can look at it as filling a future void. But clearly, the safety of residents with the tunnel or the bridge, let's encourage staff to try to, to make that a high priority for safety reasons more than anything.
And there's a fence in this bid.
Yes.
Wrought iron?
Yes. So tube steel with a gate, so that the gate would not be open until there's access. Now, we might consider closing and, keeping the lot closed maybe until we absolutely need it, if need be. I mean, just because, again, it's money that is no cost to the city. It's an opportunity to get it in now. And maybe we have to consider that as a possibility, so that we do not have people using it until it's ready.
And that fence right now is all the way around?
Yeah, I don't know. I would have to check on whether we have the entry driveway gates, but that's something we could address if that's something we need to do. Right now, it's the fencing is around the edge, all around the sides, but I don't know if we have gates at the driveways. I'll have to check on that.
What about the adjoining property?
No, the adjoining property, there'll be a tube steel fence around the whole thing, and then there's a gate.
I mean the property to the east of the parking lot.
Yeah, there'll be a tube steel fence there.
All the way to Riverside Avenue?
Well, it's actually to the east. It would be from Bonneview to the railroad, and then along the railroad, and then there's already a wall on the west, the west.
But there's not a fence currently between the vacant lot and Riverside Avenue.
There's the shopping center there.
Yeah.
Well, there'll be a fence on our project that will.
But no fence on their project. So
at this point,
I could just go through there and cross the tracks.
I think you can do that now, right? Or can?
Well, yeah.
No, there's a fence.
Now,
I think.
But the only problem is there's no place to park over there now.
Yeah. Well,
But once you pay it,
SBCTA I think has I think they have a right-of-way fence that runs along the tracks. So they have fence right now that prevents access to the tracks, I believe. I had to double check that, but I think they have something along their right-of-way.
Okay. All right. Council, what's your pleasure?
I move approval on the parking lot to nowhere.
Who made the second? I have a motion by Councilmember Baca, a second by Councilmember Trujillo. Any objections to the motion? Boy. Item passes. Tab item number 11.
All right, this one's a little more positive, I hope. So this is kind of a long time coming. This is a request for the City Council to approve an installation of water facilities agreement with San Gabriel Valley Water Company, also known as Fontana Water. Approve an abandonment of water facilities agreement with San Gabriel Valley Water Company. Authorize the issuance of a purchase order and also authorize a purchase order for the installation of water facilities in the amount of $73,165, and then authorize the issuance of a purchase order in the amount of $214,000, $384.30 for abandonment of existing facilities. All of this is related to the Alder widening improvements. So plans and specifications for Phase 2 of the Alder widening project are complete and ready for bidding. Phase 2 of the project includes widening the remaining portions of Alder Avenue between Baseline Road and Myra Way. The proposed improvements consist of installation of streetlights, concrete curb and gutter, added pavement, and traffic signal modifications. So these facilities that are Fontana Water, we've been coordinating with all of the utility companies that have impacts for that widening project, including Edison. Edison has already, we already have an agreement with them for relocating the power poles for the widening. We finally have gotten our agreements here with Fontana Water to deal with their conflicting water line. There's an existing 6-inch water line that conflicts with the proposed street improvements, mainly because it's a shallow depth. And because they had previously installed new water facilities in that alignment, they're able to abandon the conflicting water line in the areas that we have conflict, and then they will move those services, and there's a fire hydrant, there's 3 domestic services that would move to the new line so that they can abandon that line that's in the way of the improvements. All of that work would be completed by San Gabriel Valley Water Company or Fontana Water pursuant to the proposed agreement. So funds are budgeted and available in the Phase 2 Alder Avenue widening project, and that are for the required water facilities modifications. So staff's recommendation is to approve the installation of water facilities agreement with San Gabriel Valley Water Company, approve an abandonment of water facilities agreement with San Gabriel Valley Water Company, authorize the issuance of a purchase order in the amount of $73,165 for installation of water facilities, and authorize the issuance of a purchase order in the amount of $214,000, $384.30 for abandonment of Fontana water facilities. And that concludes my report.
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Baca, a second by Councilmember Kuratsawi. Any objections to the motion? Hearing none. Item passes. Okay, that takes us to reports. Councilmember Kuratsawi?
Yes. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Attended a couple of events. The new Waba Grill at the Renaissance Marketplace is now open. It's good to see that we have a good variety and some healthy choices up at the Renaissance. So I want to thank the Ruiz family for having their second location here in the city of Rialto. And lastly, attended the Eisenhower High School football game, which was amazing, along with Councilman Trujillo, and it was such an amazing game. So we, of course, won the CIF championship, and hadn't Rialto or any school, whether it's in the Rialto district, had won the CIF championship in 25 years. So 35-18, and it was such an accomplishment, and all the players were so excited. I know one of my longtime neighbors, Jalen Reagan, was there in attendance, and he was actually on the team, and I hadn't seen him in years, so it was good to catch up with him and the Reagan family. It was such a amazing game, and now we're off to state championship. So congratulations. I also want to congratulate all the team members. Had a chance to meet a couple of them. Joel Ayala, who did amazing in that game. So I want to congratulate them and wish them luck. And that's all I have today. Thank you.
Councilmember Trio? Yeah, I had a chance to attend the Toys for Tots event at the Gateway, and I had a really good time. The firefighters, I want to thank them for coming out, as well as the student groups from Rialto High School, the cheerleaders, the Madrigals. I'm sure there was other student groups that attended and supported the Spark of Love toy drive with Channel 7. And as you've probably seen, that we had a lot of support and a lot of toys were provided to our children. So just wanted to thank all those that were involved. There's Toys for Tots that's happening at the grocery outlet on the 8th of December. And some of our city groups will be performing there. So I just wanted to point that out. If you want to still donate some toys, you still can from our city. And I had also the opportunity to, let's see, I did go to the football game. Actually, the next game is set for Kaiser High School, and it's set for this Saturday at 6 p.m. We're going against Kaiser High School. The winner of that football game then goes on to compete against a Northern California division for the state championship. So we're 2 football games away from the state championship, and please feel free to join us at Kaiser High School and root for Eisenhower High School as they proceed on to the state championship. As well as I wanted to let you guys know that there's a lot of jobs out there right now that they're looking for the census. You know, I recently met with one of the specialists that work for the census, and they're getting ready to open a local office out of Ontario. So that's going to be our county office. And if you're interested in kind of getting more information on all of that, you can call, excuse me, you could call area code 855-562-2020. That's the job hotline for the census. And we really need our local community to apply for those jobs, because you guys know the communities better than anybody else that lives here in Rialto. And as you know, this area is a hard to count area. We've been undercounted in the last few census. So it's really important to get local residents to actually work for the census and count their own neighborhoods, because they're the ones that really understand where people live and how important it is to count the community. One statistic I heard is that the children are severely undercounted. And Rialto being such a young community, I think that's really important to make sure that we count all of the family members, that even children count, and that we make sure that they're part of the census. So again, if you are interested in a census federal job, it's 855-562-2020. I think it's really important for us to get the word out on that. Other than that, I just wanted to I hope you guys all enjoyed your Thanksgiving, and there's a couple other events coming up, and I'll just let others kind of talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Baca?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I want to congratulate Eisenhower High School. I did not attend the game. I was celebrating actually my parents' 50th wedding anniversary that day, but just want to congratulate Eisenhower. I know I've spoken to the principal and some of the staff members at Eisenhower, and it's a great thing for the community, getting the spirit back again, the winning tradition back at Eisenhower. I know Eisenhower had a difficult time the last couple of years, but it's good to see them turn it around, and the excitement about the kids, enthusiasm of the families and community. So I'm really happy for them. I had the opportunity to attend with the mayor and Councilman Trujillo the Rialto Sports Hall of Fame. That was a few weeks ago. It was a really, really exciting event, and to really honor and pay homage to those that have really contributed to our community, whether it's professionally or just volunteering their time. And Julie Garcia's picture was up there first, and she's the longest standing president around, and for the female too, and the only female that's the longest-serving female that's been president. So really happy for Julie, and she still continues to give in this community today, and all the time and effort she puts at Frisbee Park, watering. I mean, there's times I've driven by Frisbee Park on the 210, 7 in the morning. You see her out there watering, raking, dragging, putting in time for the kids. And she got real emotional at this event because it really means a lot because, you know, Little League coaches don't get paid. They do it for the love of baseball, the love of the game, and, you know, most of all, the love of the kids and the families. The other one was Delano Fleming, who was one of the recipients. He has passed, but his brother Ron Fleming was there to accept on their behalf. And they gave a lot of time at the Johnson Center, really working and mentoring kids, and had a nonprofit that really gave to kids and really worked with them to try to improve them and tell them the importance of teamwork, working hard, but most of all, getting a good education. You don't want to congratulate him. And also Johnny Dukes, basketball player that's from this community, played college basketball, was, you know, nomination for McDonald's All-American, which is some of the best players in the country, you know, right here from this community. And another one who he was very close with was Corey McJimson, was another honoree who was also a basketball player, nominated for a McDonald's All-American, was All-County, won a CIF title for the here in the Inland Empire. So we've got a lot of success here in the Inland Empire. And, you know, these are the recipients that received awards. We're really, really excited for them. And anybody in the community that has any suggestions, we got a pretty long list of Hall of Famers. But, you know, please feel free to give your input. That was a great event, and really just recognizing those. We've been doing it for, city's been doing this for 12 years now. And then we also had another Carter track, Naya, is it Naya? Yeah, Naya, who passed away. She lost a battle to cancer, but her family was here to receive on her behalf. She was a track star at Carter High School, and actually the mayor made the presentation for Naya. So congratulations to all the recipients, and you know, that pretty much concludes my reports. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. I have just a couple of things. One is we'll have a meet and greet for the two newly re-elected city council members.
Who's that?
That's you and me. On
still counting.
Tuesday, December 11th, 2018, from 4 to 6 p.m. Everybody's invited at the Rialto Library Meeting Room. And I believe the Eisenhower players will be there also. So you don't want to talk to us, you can talk to them. But we encourage everybody to show up and come out, especially you, Andy. The other thing that I wanted to cover tonight was last week I asked both police, fire, and public works to accompany myself up to the fire area, but specifically the area from Oakdale up to the golf course, where there are a lot of transient individuals living and having fires, and it's just a pretty interesting place to go. Also, there's a lot of vegetation up there, and I've become very concerned that we could have had a paradise situation with what's up there. And I want us to do something about it for the residents up there, not only the Rialto residents, but the county residents. We need to try to protect them as best we can. So the mayor also accompanied myself up there, and I appreciate everybody going up there. I think we even had somebody from probation up there, but nobody was on probation. But I appreciate everybody coming up, and I'd like Chief, either one of you, chiefs, to give an update as to what we're doing up there and what's taking place and what we intend to do, so that those in the audience, and I know Ms. Roberts is interested in this herself, because her home is kind of in the pathway of all this stuff.
Very good. On behalf of Chief Claimant. Yeah, so 2 weeks ago, obviously, when that fire broke out that Judy was speaking about, the fire in Northern California was still burning, that you referenced the Camp Fire in Paradise. It's the most devastating fire in terms of human loss in California's history. 88 confirmed civilian fatalities and over 200 people still missing. We were much more fortunate with that wind-driven fire that we had here in the city, but obviously the concern is very warranted. The former golf course up there in the surrounding area, it's a kind of a unique situation. Most of the houses that back up to it are in a county pocket. It's not truly a county pocket, but it's a county area. And then the homes to the northern end are in the city limits, and then the golf course itself is the former golf course itself is in the city limits. But what the situation we have and what we found, and we really appreciate the Mayor Pro Tem's leadership in getting us out there and making sure that we could assess the situation and provide some mitigation. There is a transient homeless issue there. There's a waste abandonment issue all along there. There is weed abatement issues all throughout there. And then currently that area is slated to be under construction for residential homes, which will mitigate much of this over time, but we certainly don't want to wait. The city is in second round of weed abatement. Places that did not comply with weed abatement notices by October 1st are no longer in compliance and subject to abatement by the city if they don't choose to do it themselves. There are several portions of that area that will be abated by the city. Much of the abatement is either in progress or being done by property owners associated with there. Director Eisenbeis was out there as well, and there is some activities going on in the public right-of-way or adjacent to the public right-of-way, which is the clearing of some abandonment and some waste. And then the police department and code and the fire department will be working there's a lot of other activities that relate to homelessness and their use of facilities that aren't traditional facilities that need to be remediated. And so that'll be a longer term project, but certainly the fire risk is something that needs to be handled right away. And even though we will be seeing rains Wednesday through Thursday, and it'll be a flash flood warning for those watching at home, get 1 to 2 inches of rain here running through the wash. During that period, there still will be fire risk as the winds blow through there. So that's probably an overly lengthy explanation, but there's a lot of work for us to do to protect the interests both of the city and its citizenry as well as the county pocket up there, but we definitely want to get on the fire hazard immediately.
Okay, and I hope we're taking some pictures up there. We have a lot of before pictures, but at next council meeting, I'd like to do a little slideshow of before and after, so that we can show the community that we are doing something about it. I was kind of horrified at what I saw up there. There were numerous campfires, numerous encampments up in there, and just really a dangerous situation, not only for those that are staying down in there, but for all those houses along there. And actually, as the chief can verify, the city houses, the city actually goes about halfway into the golf course. Most of us think that's country club and county area, but it's really Sycamore up to about halfway into the golf courses in the city of Rialto, and the golf courses in Rialto. So we have a responsibility to do something about it, and none of us want to see another Paradise, California, and that clearly could have happened that night up there. And again, my thanks and gratitude, as I'm sure all the residents have, for the great job you guys did up there responding and taking care of it, and our gratitude to our surrounding cities who also came out and responded. It was really a great job done up there, and also thanks to our illustrious police department and the chief. I know he was right up in the command center up there working throughout the night. So we want to thank you too, Chief. Did you have anything you wanted to add to this?
There's no way I could follow the fire chief on that one, sir. Thank you, though.
We're going to get you a fire truck. Okay. Okay. Mr. Ansari, do you have anything?
Very quickly, I also wanted to echo what's been said with respect to that fire that night. It was scary, and I want to personally thank the first responders, foremost the fire, police, and public works. And I remember that evening that we were going home, I was talking to Chief Grayson, and we were ready to, I was asking him actually whether we should activate the EOC or not, but he calmed me down and he said that things are under control for now. So thank you, the first responders. Secondly, I also wanted to thank Ron Carr once again, for his services as interim finance director. Reminder for the community, tomorrow is farmers market as usual in the parking lot from 10 to 2. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Steele for any updates on the economic development corner.
I'll just mention a couple things, and maybe Barbara will jump in, but we have a couple of grand openings coming. Grocery Outlet on December 5th and 6th, I believe, so they have a VIP event on the 5th, and then on the 6th they'll have the ribbon cutting. And then mentioned earlier the Rialto Bioenergy Facility, Energia being the primary proponent of that. I believe they have their groundbreaking ceremony on December 7th. It starts at 10, Barbara, somewhere around there, and includes, I think, a luncheon at the facility as well. So those are two major projects coming up. At Renaissance, upcoming openings besides that, I think Panera Bread put up their signage. That's usually an indication that they're coming soon. They were originally scheduled to open in December, so hopefully they'll hit that schedule in September. Shouldn't be too far behind that. And then if you've noticed Cracker Barrel, it's taken their distinctive form. You can kind of see the barn architecture coming to life. So that should be coming online again in February, March, which is the schedule. And we hope to close on Sonicure the next few days and get them under construction as well.
Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council, I also want to turn it over to Perry for an announcement for the holiday parade and the tree lighting event.
Holiday parade tree lighting next week, Saturday, December the 8th, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. downtown Rialto. I'm not sure if, I haven't been here that long, if Rialto has ever had a nighttime parade, but this will be a first time ever nighttime parade. We want all the community to come out. We'll be down in the downtown area. Parade starts at Riverside and Rialto Avenue. Get ready to light up the night with floats. Parade begins at 6 p.m. starting at Riverside and Rialto Avenue. And we're also going to do the parade, following the parade, a tree lighting ceremony, followed by our Holiday on Ice spectacular. We're also looking forward to having our posada, which will be held in the downtown area right behind the ice skating rink.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Creel, do you have anything?
No, thank you.
Just so you know, I won't be at the Christmas parade. That is also the same night as the Night of Remembrance for MAD, and I will. That event is in Rancho Cucamonga, and I will be at that event in memory of my son Eddie. So, sorry, but I'm going to miss the parade. Madam City Clerk, I know you have something. You want some bucks or something, don't you? Aren't you collecting money for the?
Well, yes. Well, since you mentioned that, but let me just reiterate and thank Mayor Pro Tem Scott, Councilmember Baca, and Councilmember Caricetto. So far, we going to give over 200 coupons out to Rialto residents for the holiday, and that's our way of saying giving back to the residents of Rialto. So we are looking for donation. They have been gracious to give the donation for that, and if you want to join in, Councilmember Trujillo, you certainly are welcome to do so, and the mayor has also supported that, and the community members have donated to give back, and that is just to say thanks to the vendors that come out every Wednesday, and that's to the residents that come out every Wednesday. So it's a give, and so I want to say thank you for supporting that, for that. And just to reiterate about the grand openings that is going on, I need to know if Mayor and Council will be at the VIP for next Wednesday, because it's at 4 o'clock, and that's the VIP part of the grand opening for Rialto Grocery Outlet.
That's on the 5th.
Yes, that's the Wednesday at 4. So I need you there at 4. Mayor and council, and if the city treasurer, and if other members wanted to be at the VIP part, department heads, and I need to have those names and numbers. So if you can please give me that. Well, PD is already there with me, so.
The chief will be there.
Well, they're working, they have traffic.
Our new chief.
Our new old chief. Our new old chief.
If he's there, he's welcome to.
Mr. Galante, did you have anything tonight?
Nothing to report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay. Robert, anything to report? He may not be leaving. We may have another spot for him. I know you want to go on vacation. Okay, I guess that's it for tonight. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Second. I have a motion from Councilmember Baca, a second from Councilmember Trujillo. Any objections? Hearing none, we are adjourned.